Hello and welcome to the Shea Hates Everything Podcast, where we talk about video games, movies, comics, and other shit that matters. My name is Shea, and today I hate the weather not knowing if it wants to be hot or cold.
Is it like everywhere, all over the place?
Yeah, and in the same day. It's like 40 degrees in the morning, 85 in the afternoon, and then back down to 40 when the sun goes down. It's completely absurd.
That sounds like Ohio.
Yeah.
But it's not supposed to be Ohio. It's supposed to be Georgia weather.
Exactly.
My name is Kyle, and today I hate working 15-hour days.
I would also hate that. That doesn't sound awesome.
I did that yesterday.
Is that because renting out the theater space and you're site managing?
Yep. They came in. So I showed up at 8:45 because I like to give myself 15, 20 minutes to clean before they get there, because they're supposed to get there at 9. And then I get an email saying they won't be there until 10. So I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'm just really going to clean the theater. So I really cleaned the theater for an hour, and they finally got there at 10, and they decorated, and I had to help them do the whole decoration thing, which I didn't want to do, and that sucked, and it was lame. And then they left for like a couple hours, and then came back. And I guess I could have left during those 2 hours, but if I'm not there, I have to clock out. So,
okay. And you live a little farther away now, right? How long does it take you to drive to the school?
It's like 13 minutes. So I mean, I still would have like an hour and a half at home, but
yeah.
Like I didn't want to chance it, because a lot of times with these groups, they leave, but then like people are still filtering in and out all the time.
Right.
Which did not happen yesterday. They were just gone for like a solid 2 hours for lunch or whatever. But I went ahead and stayed there just in case, and I wanted to get paid. And then they were back at 3, and they did like a whole catering thing with all this Indian food, and then they had this show that was supposed to run from 6:30. It's supposed to be 3.5 hours, so 6:30 to 10. They didn't get started till 7, and the show ran 4.5 hours.
Wow.
So it was over. Let's see, 7. It was over at like 11:30 or 11:25 at night, and then I didn't leave until a little after midnight. So I was there at 8:45 in the morning, and I left a little after midnight.
So do they have to pay more if they stay away later?
I mean, they're paying. We charge by hour based on what they're doing in the space. So, like, the fact that the show went longer cost them an extra $120.
Yeah. Okay. Well, obviously it doesn't help you working that long, but at least it's not like they can just stay however they want with no consequences.
Right. It's by hour. So, I've been considering writing something into the contract that if they go over a certain amount of time for when they are booked, there's an additional fee. I think I should probably do that just for my own sanity.
Well, and if they stay past a certain hour, like if they're there past 11 o'clock, there's an additional fee, because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like
it's
for them,
late.
It's fine. If like the people that are there, they're enjoying it, whatever, that's fine. But you also have to you have to close the stuff down afterwards.
Right.
Like that happens at wedding venues and other places that you ran out. If they have an end date, like, hey, you have to be out at this time because our employees still have to do shit afterwards.
Oh, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Whatever, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm 25, and they made me site manager, and nobody knows anything about it. Like, no one has any idea. They just it's your thing. You do it. And I'm like, yeah, this is a poorly planned deal here. Let's give this guy with no experience in this kind of a job the whole thing, where no one can help him because no one knows what they're doing.
Right, that's the issue. Because it being your thing, I think is fine. Because you've been doing this now for a couple years.
This is my second year, scheduling everything.
Right. Yes. But before that, I remember Ms. Long would have you be on site. Yeah. So at least you had that stuff up and running. But the problem for me is that there's no one else that knows how to do it. Because what if you're gone that weekend?
Exactly.
Well, then what are they gonna do?
That's the thing is, if I'm sick and I have to have my co-director or Miss Long come in and work for me, I mean, Miss Long obviously knows how to do everything, but my co-director does not, and so they're just calling me the whole time while I'm sick, asking me how to do everything, and I'm not getting paid for it, man.
Yeah. You should charge by the minute. like a sex phone operator. 99 cents for your first 5 minutes and $3.99 for every additional minute.
Call
to ask me questions about how to raise and lower the psych.
Well, you got to release the brake and okay. But yeah, so 15 hours yesterday, and so today is my fiance's birthday, and so she went out with a bunch of friends last night and got really, let's say, drunk. And
I can identify with that.
Yeah, after the show, I had to go pick her up and take her home. So this morning we had to wake up early and then go get her truck and come back.
Right.
So
yes. That sounds like a bad thing to have to do the morning after you get really drunk, is wake up early and go pick up your car.
Yeah, and have to wake up early after working a 15-hour day.
Neither
of us were happy about waking up early.
Right.
But we're up and we're alive.
Kelly and I also got very drunk last night. Last night was Cinco de Mayo, obviously, recording this on a Sunday. So I guess belated happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone. And happy belated Star Wars Day. More importantly, belated Star Wars Day. It was funny. I went and saw Avengers on Friday on May the 4th. And it was just like I felt very nerd happy that day. Because it was Star Wars Day and I was seeing Avengers. It was a fun Friday. And it was also Friday. Like, I was leaving work and like, oh, man, Star Wars Day and I'm going to see Avengers tonight. It was good times.
Nice.
Yeah, so happy belated important holidays to everyone. My voice is a little lower than normal, and it's probably because I had a lot of vodka last night. I ended up, so Kelly and I, we were drinking at home because that's what we do. And, of course, she fell asleep by, like, 11 p.m. We had fun. She fell asleep by 11 p.m. And so then I'm sitting there by myself, drunk, watching the Jersey Shore because I don't want to go to sleep drunk. I need to let it kind of leave my system so that I'm not feeling awful in the morning. Right. So that was a bizarre experience. Just sitting on my couch, casually drinking water and watching a bunch of 23-year-old Italian just gross meatheads yell at each other. Those people, man, they just, Kelly and I always say, they look like they just smell awful. Like, because they're just covered in the like sun tanning spray and just gross stuff, and they always look oily, and the
just
dudes,
all
because
chemicals.
Yes, because the dudes are so jacked, they sweat a lot too. Like, dudes that have that big of muscles all the time sweat a lot. And so they're just like sweaty and greasy and oily and covered in this orange just spray. And they look like they smell like shit. So yeah. That was my evening last night. So it was obviously more fun than yours, I guess fair to say.
Yeah, apologies if you're a spray tanning, jacked up Italian from the shore.
Not sure how many of those folks are listening to the Shea Hates Everything podcast where we talk about video games most of the time.
All it takes is one.
Yeah, if there is anyone listening, maybe don't use the spray tan stuff because it's disgusting and you don't look good. You don't look good. No one is buying this. You're orange.
You're the thing.
Yeah. I guess before we dive into some stuff, I did want to make a housekeeping note. So I'm trying to up my marketing game for SheaHatesEverything.com, considering I'm a professional marketer and I have not been putting forth that time and effort into my own website because I'm a lazy piece of shit. So I can finally announce now that all of our show notes are uploaded on SheaHatesEverything.com for all past episodes, and I'll continue to do it for future episodes. They may not go up the day the podcast goes up, but it will be within the next day or two. So those are very useful if you are listening to the podcast, hear us talking about something in the news section, and you're like, oh, I'd like to read more about that. Go to SheaHatesEverything.com. I have a podcast section where you can find the episode, and I have links to all of the news stories that we talk about. So that's a really important thing that I should have been doing since day one. But hey, it only took me a little less than a year. So now we're doing it. So yeah, check those out. I try to write like all the games and stuff we talk about, movies and everything, as well as the news and hate of the week. I try to highlight everything. So if you haven't had time to listen to an episode, you can check that out too and kind of get an overview of what we talk about in that episode. So you can skip around if you need to do that. So with that out of the way, let's talk about what we've been playing and watching, etc. the past 2 weeks.
So you already mentioned
right,
that you saw the biggest, most pre-sale tickenist movie to date.
Yes. I had a bit where I wasn't going to talk about Avengers until the very end and make it like, oh, right, and I also saw the Avengers, whatever. And it was going to be super funny, but I ruined it. It's not your fault. I ruined it because I brought it up earlier on. So,
and also, that bit is only funny for you and not the people listening.
That's not true. You're wrong.
No, I'm right.
Everything I say is hilarious. I'm a comedic genius.
Because the whole time they'd be sitting there like, they're not talking about Avengers? What's going on? And then, like, they have to listen to the whole shitty podcast to get to the part they want to listen to.
Right. That's fair. Yeah, but that's the whole... That's that marketing. Because now we're going to talk about Avengers first, and then they won't have to listen to the rest of the shitty podcast. Before, I was going to kind of, put it in during the middle, so they had to get through it. So at least they were sticking around for the first 45 minutes. Now we're going to lose them after 20 minutes.
Well... Hey, we don't have ads yet.
That's true. Who gives a
so
don't download. There's a fantasy football podcast that I listen to, and they always are like, download, don't listen. Like, we know our podcast is terrible. Just download it. That's how we get credit. That's how our employers know that we're succeeding, is the amount of downloads. So just download, funny. Don't listen. So you can do that for us too. Download, don't listen. And tell your friends to download, don't listen. If they don't like video games, if they've never seen a movie before because they're a monster, just tell them to download the podcast. It helps us out, and they don't have to put up with us for 2.5 hours every other week. It's a win-win. But yes, Avengers. So I saw Avengers. Yeah. It was good. I liked it. There is space around those sentences because it wasn't amazing. Like, it didn't blow me away. I was reading through my Marvel movie ranking, and I realized, first of all, that this is the 19th Marvel movie we've gotten.
Jeez.
And the first Iron Man came out in 2018. So it's been 10 years of Marvel Studios films. Yes, 2008, thank you. So it's been 10 years of Marvel Studios films. So we've got 19 movies in 10 years.
It's almost two a year. That's too many.
That's a lot. That is too many. I absolutely agree. And I think that's part of the reason why I wasn't as hyped for this, and why it didn't hit me as hard as I maybe wanted it to, is just because there have been so many. I just am frankly kind of burnt out of the superhero movies.
I've been burnt out on them.
I know we talked about this because, like, they put out the trailers for the next Ant-Man film, and I'm like, I'm sure it'll be funny. I love Paul Rudd, but like, I just don't really care. And it was less of that for Avengers because it is Avengers. It's a big event, etc. So there's that kind of hype. And I was more excited the day of, like when I got home from work and we were going to see it in like 2 hours. And I was thinking about it, and like, I actually did get excited because it was like, yes, it's this big tentpole moment. Everybody on the internet's already been talking about it because this is like the first movie in however long that I didn't see the opening weekend. I had to wait a week because I forgot to get tickets, and then they were sold out, which really sucked. But yeah, so I don't know. It was very. It's in the top half of Marvel movies. It's not like it was bad, of which there are really only like 3 or 4 bad Marvel movies. But it's not like it didn't hit me like Civil War did, which is still, I think, probably my favorite Marvel superhero movie. But like, it's better than Age of Ultron, the previous Avengers. So I mean, it's very good. It's all set up, like 90% set up for Part 2 that comes out next year, or whatever they're going to call Avengers 4. Just because there are so many characters now, there's so much going on, and they're all displaced in different places because of the preceding movies, that there's just a lot of plates to be spinning. And I think the Russo brothers do a really good job of keeping all of those plates spinning and like not spending too much time in any one area where you forget what was happening in the other one. They kind of jump back around in pretty smart succession. But the fact that they do a good job of spinning the plates doesn't take away from the fact that there are just too many plates that are spinning. So they do the best they can, but it's still just a little bit too much. Like there's like one story too many. I will say it's fun now that because the cast is so expanded, there are plenty of characters that have never met before. And so you're seeing them interact for the first time. Like Tony Stark and Doctor Strange meet for the first time. And they kind of butt heads, and that's really funny because their personalities. Thor meets up with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's a really fun back and forth. And it was very telling to me, which I found when I saw the trailers too, where I was like, during the trailers, I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, Avengers, whatever. And then when the Guardians come in at the end of the trailer, that's when I was like, oh, okay, awesome. It was very telling that like the Guardians of the Galaxy are my favorite group of all the Marvel stuff. Yeah. It was totally the same in the movie. So I won't, without going into spoilers, they set up whatever's going on in the beginning, and the whole time I'm like, all right, fine. And then the Guardians come in, and then I was like, okay, now I'm excited to watch this movie. So it's just very telling that they're my favorite group. But I don't know, man. It's just that's really kind of what takes away a lot of not my enjoyment, because I did still enjoy the movie, but just that there's so much setup about what Thanos is doing and so much recapping where all the Infinity Stones are, what they can do, what the current status quo is of all the characters, all the introductions that need to happen. There's just so much setup of what's happening that it doesn't feel like there's a ton of story. Like it feels like some wheels are spinning. There's also there are a couple of B stories that happen that either weren't super interesting to me, which is partially because they were happening with characters that I'm less invested in, but also that like there's a whole B story with the Hulk, which I won't go into, but it comes out of nowhere and it feels very unjustified, and then it doesn't resolve. And it was just like it feels like it was a mistake that they didn't give any context for what was happening or any resolution or even like a cliffhanger of, you'll get a resolution in the next one. It just felt like this really weird sidebar that, and the story, like you could argue that the story happened because it justified some of the events of the film, which is bad writing in the first place, but it didn't even do that. Like, I was talking about it with Kelly after, and if you changed that story, it wouldn't have changed anything that happened in the movie. So it's a completely superfluous story, and it doesn't resolve. I don't know, that part of it really bugged me. But seeing all of them interact was really fun. I don't know, it's just, it's very clear what characters matter the most. Like, obviously, Tony Stark gets a lot of screen time in this. Thor gets a lot of screen time in this. Like, the bigger characters are the ones that get all the focus. And so a lot of the B characters get like a couple lines, one action sequence, that kind of thing, which I get it, but it doesn't make it any less feeling like some of these characters got short shrifted. And even characters that I like that kind of got short shrifted. Spider-Man is good. Tom Holland is just the best. I love him as Spider-Man. It's just really fun to see him. Don't make that face. You didn't even see the damn movie, so you can't say anything.
There's a reason I didn't see the movie, because Tom Holland.
I don't get that. Why? It doesn't make sense to me.
I don't like him. I don't like him as that character.
But you haven't seen him as that character.
I saw the trailers.
You've seen little snippets of a trailer. Yeah. That's like judging an entire 4-course meal because you took a bite of the potatoes and we're like, this is a little underseasoned.
No, that's not a perfect analogy. It's more like I judge a whole 4-course meal by tasting the potatoes, and I can see the rest of the food and smell it, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be good.
Well, I'm telling you, you're wrong. It's one of the best meals I've ever had.
Our taste buds are different, Shea.
Yeah. So, I don't know. There's another part where the internet has been kind of freaking out because Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, you know what character I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So when she's introduced in Age of Ultron, her and Quicksilver, they're from Sokovia, and so they have these Sokovian accents, very much like Russian accents. They're very thick. In Civil War, her accent was a little bit less. Like, it was still there, but it was a little, like, inconsistent. In this movie, she just sounds like an American woman. Like, she's just a person. And so it's like, what the fuck happened to her accent? And like 3 years have passed, but, like, think about real life. If someone lives in Russia their whole life and they move to America, they don't lose their accent after 3 years. It was just a really weird... that I honestly didn't even notice. But afterwards, Kelly was like, what the hell happened to Elizabeth Olsen's accent? It was completely gone. And so sure enough, we go online to look on the internet, and everybody's like, dude, what? What happened? Like, was this a mistake? Did the script supervisor fall asleep? And, like, why did no one raise their hand? And it's probably because Elizabeth Olsen just didn't want to have to take more dialect classes. So she's like, yeah, can I maybe not do this anymore? And like, yeah, sure, no one will know. There's so much fucking shit happening on. No one's going to pay attention.
Yeah, it's not like the fan base for this film dissects each one.
Yeah, absolutely.
No one's going to notice.
Absolutely. And I guess the only other thing that I would mention, without going into spoilers here, the ending it's a cliffhanger because of what's going to happen in the next one, obviously, with Thanos and the Infinity Stones and the Gauntlet, etc. It's a very dark ending. Like, it kind of reminds me of Empire Strikes Back ending, where it's like, holy shit, that's the end of the movie? Like, that's... not only is it a cliffhanger, but, like, shit's kind of fucked right now. Which I liked. It had a little... I can't really go into it because I don't want to spoil anything. Maybe we can talk about it next
episode. Can I tell you what I hope happens? Because I haven't seen it yet.
I mean, I'm not going to confirm or deny, but go ahead.
Right. I really want Jeremy Renner to fucking die.
In real life.
But also, like, I understand I don't get everything I want, but this would be like a good stopgap measure if he dies in Infinity War. Oh my god, I would be so fucking happy if Hawkeye's dead. I love Hawkeye as a character. Jeremy Renner's a sack of dicks as Hawkeye. He sucks butt.
I don't agree.
He does nothing with Hawkeye.
I disagree. I really like him. I think that the writing has underserved him. His character has never gotten to do... He's never gotten to be more than a B-tier character in these movies. I like him. It's difficult because in the Joss Whedon days, everyone was a wit master in these films because that's how he writes his characters. Everyone is kind of the same character because they're all smarmy and sarcastic. And I love Joss Whedon. He's a very talented creator, but his writing bugs me a little bit because it's like, who can outwit the other one in every fucking scene? And that's just not reality. Not every character is funny. Like, you look at a character like Thor, which I think Thor has been underserved because, one, I don't think Chris Hemsworth has any charm or personality, and I don't think he's funny. But Thor also isn't funny or charming. He is a very stilted Shakespearean dude, and that's where the comedy comes from. Much like Steve Rogers, the comedy comes from him being a fish out of water and him not getting modern times. He's not a funny joke character. It's the irony of that makes it funny. It's the same for Thor. But they try to, because Joss Whedon wrote that character, he's like a jokey dude sometimes, which he isn't in the regular Thor movies until Thor Ragnarok, which is straight up trying to be a buddy comedy, which is why the film didn't work for me, because it was trying way too hard. We're going off on a real big tangent, but that's why I think Hawkeye has been a problem, is because of Joss Whedon's writing. Hawkeye is a very sarcastic, smarmy character, but he blends into the background because so is everyone else in Avengers.
But also Jeremy Renner sucks.
And that's the part I don't agree with. I like Jeremy Renner. Kelly feels, I mean, not as passionately as you, but she feels similarly that there's just something about him as an actor that is unlikable, much like Bradley Cooper. There's something about Bradley Cooper that is just kind of unlikable. And I get that. I don't agree, but I agree. Like, there's something about him that I get why you might not like him. But I think he's a very good actor. I like him as Hawkeye. But I understand what you're saying. I will say Jeremy Renner does not die in Infinity War.
God damn it.
Maybe the character does, but Jeremy Renner does not die.
Okay.
I won't spoil that. But, so the ending, it's a pretty dark ending that which I appreciated, but because of the fact that it's a superhero movie, it didn't impact me the way that it was supposed to. I'll say that much. And so with that, I was a little bit like, a little underwhelmed. But, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, I read an internet comment that changed my perspective on the ending in a positive way. Which
that
may be the first.
Possible.
That may be the first time in the history of the world that an internet comment has changed someone's mind in a positive way, and I'm happy that it's happened to me. So, I have not written my review yet. It will be coming this week, but I'm glad that I read this comment because, and not even just specific to this movie, but in film writing in general. Obviously, I'm a pretty big cynic. I like to poke holes in things because I have pretty high standards when it comes to writing. And this particular thing, I was just like, oh, well, because of this reason, this event isn't as cool as they're making it seem like it is. But the comment was like, it's not about what you think the impact of this is. It's about what the actual characters in the film think the impact of this event is. And I was like, damn, you just blew my mind. You're right. It's not about what I think matters and what I know and what I think will happen from the consequences of this. It's about diving into the circumstances of the characters and saying they think that this thing means this. That is pretty fucking dark. So I liked that, and now I have a better appreciation for the end of the movie. Obviously, if you like Avengers and you like Marvel stuff, you're going to go see this. You don't need my recommendation. But it is good. I had a good time throughout. Are you planning on seeing it?
Tell me after the podcast if Hawkeye dies. If he does, I'll see it. If he doesn't, I'm not going to bother watching.
Okay. Well, there's something okay. All right. I will. I don't want to say anything else. All right.
Okay. So what else have you been doing?
Oh, man. So I guess let me say, so here's the joke that I was going to make. So I realized a couple of weeks ago, I think it was like after last episode, that I had only seen 2 movies that released in 2018, which is not very many movies. And obviously I went and saw Avengers. I'm seeing Deadpool in a couple weeks. I'm seeing Solo a couple weeks after that. So I'm seeing a little bit more stuff this month. But I'd only seen 2 movies. And as someone who likes to see a lot of films, I want to write another top 10 list at the end of 2018. I needed to see more 2018 movies. So I went and saw 4 more movies we rented. I saw 4 more films, all of which released last year. So I'm not really helping seeing 2018 movies part, but I wanted to see all 4 of these. So we saw I, Tonya, which is about Tonya Harding. It's the like kind of satirical biopic about Tonya Harding, who I don't know if you know who that is. She's I
know the
famous
name.
She's a famous figure skater that was competing in the Olympics. There was a big drama thing because the American figure skater that she was competing against, a dude that Tonya Harding knew hit this other chick in the leg and like broke her knee so that she couldn't compete. And it was this huge thing. And so she was banned and had all her awards stripped and could never compete again. And it was this huge thing that happened. I think it was like in the early 90s, maybe mid 90s.
Because
so they
some
made
guy she knew did it?
Yeah.
What?
But there was a conspiracy that like she hired this guy, and like we still don't have all the facts because obviously she still maintains her innocence of knowing about what was happening.
Yeah, I mean if you can't prove it, they shouldn't have fucking done anything.
But it's more complicated than that. I'm not going to go into every detail of this.
Okay.
But they had proof that it doesn't matter. So the movie, it stars I can't remember the actress's name. The chick that played Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad.
Sure.
Yeah, so she plays Tonya Harding, and she's a very attractive person, and they do a really good job of making her not as attractive. And not to be mean about Tonya Harding, but her as a person, the perception of her at the time was she was very white trash. Like, figure skating was and still is, it's like horseback riding. Like, it's a thing that rich people are into. Tennis. Right. Like, it's a very buttoned up kind of sport that there's a lot of pomp and circumstance around and a lot of fanciful whatever. And so she came in wearing her denim cut off shorts and like she couldn't afford to have nice whatever outfits, and so she was just kind of sneered on, and so they do a good job of making this actress, who is extremely attractive, seem white trash. And so that was impressive to me, because a lot of times they try to do that with these like A-list Hollywood actors that are crazy attractive. They try to make them look like bums, and it fails, and it actually succeeds in this. It's a very funny movie, but it doesn't really know what it wants to be. Like, sometimes it's just a comedy, sometimes it's far more like farcical and satirical in its comedy, and then other times like it wants you to take these emotional moments very seriously, and I liked it, but the whole thing just doesn't totally gel. It's a little all in too many directions. Okay. But, I did really like it, and it was cool to see, because Kelly she's fascinated by this story. She's watched a bunch of documentaries, and I've seen a couple with her. And so it's cool to see these events, which are all still, quote unquote, factual. Like, they don't make up a ton of stuff that isn't in the documentaries, but just kind of told in a different way, in a more comedic light. I enjoyed that aspect.
Okay.
We also saw Downsizing, which is the Matt Damon movie where he shrinks. It's Honey, I Shrunk the Damon.
You had me at Matt Damon.
Right, I know. I'll see anything that dude does. I don't even care. He's amazing. This was a weird one. So it wasn't really what I expected it to be. So, well, maybe it was. I don't even know. So, like, it seems like it's a fairly lighthearted comedy that it kind of has the themes about what really matters in life and like materialism, that sort of thing. And it definitely is about that, but it's also really about what we are doing to the environment and the end of the world. And it kind of gets a little dark at times and kind of a little preachy as well, to be honest. I don't know. I liked it, but I don't know. It wasn't as funny as I thought it was going to be, because it kind of cared more about its themes than its characters and its story. There isn't even really a story. It's just kind of like Matt Damon shrinks, this is his new status quo, and now he's living in the status quo. And that's the movie, which is a bit weird. We also saw Coco, which is a recent Pixar film.
Coco. Is that the toucan thing or the parrot thing?
No. What?
No.
What parrot thing?
I thought, that's Rio, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, but I don't think that's a Disney movie. I think that's like a DreamWorks bullshit.
Oh, okay.
But so this, it's like Dia de los Muertos is when it takes place, and it takes place in Mexico. It's this little, Mexican kid that he loves music, and so he gets this magical guitar, and he like transports to the world of the dead, and that's kind of the adventure that he goes on. I don't know, dude. I didn't really like it, and Kelly didn't like it either. It's just kind of boring, and the worst thing about it is it takes place in this really interesting world, not even just in Mexico, and where it can talk about that culture, but also that it takes place on Dia de los Muertos, where he goes to the land of the dead, and it's like they talk about these, spirit guide animals that everybody has, and they kind of guide the dead people and blah, blah, blah. And it just doesn't really make good use of that. They don't really dive into building the world much. And I compare it to a movie like Zootopia, which obviously very different conceit, but Zootopia takes place in this interesting twist on our world, where it's like the real world, but everything's animals. And This is like, it's like the real world, but it's everyone's dead people in Mexico. Yeah, but like fun skeletons, not like creepy ones. And Zootopia does an awesome job with all the little intricacies and little background things that tell a story of their own and are like really funny takes on things. This movie just doesn't do any of that. It doesn't really teach you anything about Mexican culture and Dia de los Muertos and all this stuff. I didn't really feel like I learned anything, which to me is important in a Pixar movie like this, where they look at a culture or at a thing and they have a lot to say about it. It didn't really feel that way. And also just the story's kind of uninteresting. there's a fun twist that I didn't see coming until like the last second. I was like, oh shit, this is gonna happen, and then it did like immediately afterward. So that I appreciated because that doesn't happen very often, especially in a movie that's primarily geared towards kids. But it's just, I don't know, it was just kind of boring. It was a missed opportunity. It felt like a rare miss for Pixar, I would say. And then finally, we watched The Disaster Artist, which is the kind of mockumentary about Tommy Wiseau making The Room. And this, like, I can say this without hyperbole, James Franco should have been nominated for Best Actor at the Academy Awards for this role. He was absolutely phenomenal. And it's not just like he was doing a really good Tommy Wiseau impersonation, like that it was very funny, but he brings this like pathos to the character, like where you feel for him sometimes, which I have never felt for the actual Tommy Wiseau, because he's like, yes, is he dumb? Sure. But he's also just kind of a douchebag in real life. Like, he's kind of a selfish prick, and he's very childish. He's immature, and like, I don't know if he has mental issues or what the thing is, but like, you kind of want to pity him because he obviously just doesn't know, but that doesn't excuse the way he treats people. Right. And like, this film was made with the blessing of Tommy Wiseau, and it's based on the book that Tommy Wiseau's friend Greg, the dude that plays, I think the character's name is Greg. No, Mark. Thank you, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Yeah, oh, hi, Mark. I should have known. Yeah. So it's based on the book that the real life Mark wrote about his experience working with Tommy Wiseau on this film. So all of that's been like vetted. They add a couple little things here and there because it is a movie after all. But I don't know, dude. I loved it. It was absolutely awesome. The weak link to me is Dave Franco, who plays Greg. Because all the other, I mean, especially James Franco's, but all the other characters, because there are tons of cameos from like James Franco's buddies. Seth Rogen's in it. Paul Scheer's in it. Like a lot of funny people are in it and play characters, and they all do a good job of kind of transforming to be like these real life people. But Dave Franco is just Dave Franco in like everything you've seen him. He does that stuttering way of speaking that just annoys me. So he was kind of the weakest part of it, but it was very funny and honestly made me... I felt more sorry for James Franco's Tommy Wiseau than the real Tommy Wiseau. So good on him for that. Yeah, I guess that's all the movies and stuff that I've seen, which granted is still a lot. Have you watched anything?
Kara and I watched Vampire's Kiss with
what the hell is that?
Nicolas Cage.
Oh, okay.
That he sounds thinks he's like a vampire.
It sounds like a Skinamax, like softcore vampire porn. Vampire's Kiss. Late night.
I will say that movie is just one giant walking meme. The whole movie is a meme. So you know that picture of Nick Cage where he's like jutting his head forward and his eyes are really big, he looks crazy? Yes. That's from this movie.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then, have you ever seen the clip of him going A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like screaming the alphabet?
Possibly. It sounds familiar.
Also
it's
from this movie.
as well. Okay.
And it has a it's the movie's hilarious. It's
in fairness, pretty much Nick Cage's entire career is a meme factory.
Yeah, for sure. But this is just like young Cage unleashed. Like it's literally like the directors just said, do whatever the fuck you want, man. And he just went nuts. Yeah. And like most of it doesn't make sense and it's inconsistent and there's like this weird side plot. And it's very, I think it's trying to be ambiguous about whether or not he's actually a vampire or whether he's crazy. But then it like does a hard turn where it's like, yeah, he's definitely crazy. But then at the end it's like, oh, well, maybe. Okay. And then, the movie doesn't know what it wants to do. It's an excuse for for Nicolas Cage to go crazy.
Let's do that. Because that's kind of an interesting concept. Like, is he actually a vampire or is he just crazy? That's kind of cool.
And it is interesting for like the first half of the movie. And then it's just like, no, this guy's fucked up.
Right.
And then it sort of tries to backpedal on it a bit at the end. And it just doesn't come together. But I had seen it before. But Kara had not, and so that was her Virgin Vampire's Kiss experience, which is always a special one. It's one to remember.
Right. Sounds like I need to see it.
Yeah, it's a treat. They did Giant Bomb did a film in 40s with it, which I think is also a really good way to watch it. Because because you and Kelly get drunk on the weekends sometimes. That's a fun way to watch it if it's the two of you together drunk. But if it's just you and you don't feel like drinking, I would do film in 40s. It's better with a crowd.
Where did you watch it?
I bought it on Blu-ray. The only way I could get it on Blu-ray was in this double pack with High Spirits or something. I don't know, some other stupid movie.
What are you doing, man?
It was $10. It was $10.
It adds up.
Amazon free shipping. Hey, I want to own the entire Film in 40s collection on Blu-ray. That's my goal. I have a goal.
At least you didn't say the entire Nick Cage collection.
No.
I was waiting for that, and now I was going to have to veto.
Well, because Film in 40s is doing a Nick Cage hits series at the moment. So all of them that I have been buying are Nicolas Cage movies. So
right.
And I want to grow my Blu-ray collection. With
a bunch of garbage,
awful movies, complete trash. It's like, what have you been? What games you been playing?
Mostly just God of War. Have you played any more God of War?
Nope.
Oh man, are you giving up?
Maybe. For now.
That's too bad. And not just because I think it's good, but because I want people to like things that are good things. But yeah, so I've been playing. I put a lot of time into God of War the past couple of weeks. I'm definitely with you because you were a little farther than I was last time, and I'm definitely with you now on kind of the area design and the backtracking, which I still haven't had to do a ton of, but it certainly doesn't look like that will be fun, and it looks like there will be a lot of it. Yeah. My biggest frustration is the level gating. So like, I got to a point at the Lake of Nine where I unlocked another level. So like I went and did the story, I came back, and the water goes down another level. So there's even more areas that I can explore. And I can go back to a lot of the ones that were initially there that I couldn't before because the guys were too hard, and I can fight those guys. But now it's just a whole other level of guys that are too hard to fight. And that inherently isn't a problem. Like, I don't really think that's a super fun thing, but right. I can accept that. The issue for me is you don't know they're too high level until you get there and they kick your ass.
Right.
So, like, and it's because there are these, floating magical orb things that you interact with that summon the hard enemies, some of which I can fight and some of which are way too high level.
Like, those things should have a level on the orb to let you know.
Agreed. Or some better visual indicator, which I thought I had figured out, because it looked like if it was purple, they were super hard guys, and then when you beat them, it turns blue, where you get an item. And I thought that's what had happened. And so then I went and touched a blue one, and sure enough, out come 3 level 6 ice guys who do these crazy fucking ice attacks that kill me in one hit. And I was like, okay,
hard.
well, I guess
I did
that
beat those guys,
right.
But that was really hard. That was a hard one.
It's a different thing then, because if you were like level 2 or 3, there is zero chance that you could have, because I was doing no damage to them when I was hitting them.
Yeah, I mean, I was basically doing no damage to these guys, but it was just war of attrition and just dodging their attacks for a really long time.
I don't believe you that you beat those
That
guys.
Fight took me like 15 minutes.
Did you unlock the second level of the water thing?
Yeah. I guess I did. I guess I did play a little more after the last podcast, but I haven't played it in like a week.
Okay, I didn't realize that you were significantly farther than I was last time we talked then. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I've played even past that, and I've explored everywhere I can on that second level, and now I'm going back to the story. So, let's see, when did that game come out? April 20th? I don't know if we want to go into spoilers still. I guess, it's an early spoiler. Right. But, like, about the realms is kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so initially I had made it to the elf realm, and that's where I had stopped. And then I played again, and I beat that and got back and played a little bit more in the Lake of the Nine.
Okay, yeah. So, right. All right. So I beat the elf realm, obviously came back at the second level of the water, but I also, because I found enough there are so many fucking collectibles.
It's too much.
Things that level up. And I always, like, I'll find a thing and it'll pop up the little box of, like, it's a legendary whatever, and it has the description. I'm like, okay, I don't know what the fuck this is trying to say. Right. Is this an enchantment? Is it something I use to level up something else? It's just, I'm confused all the time by what that stuff is saying. But the actual collectibles where you get, like, the scrolls and that sort of thing, the treasure maps, there's one where it's, like, language. And so Atreus is learning a Dwarven, I think, language.
Atreus.
Is it Atreus? I thought it was Atreus.
No, it's Atreus.
I don't know. I can't understand a single fucking word Kratos said.
Dude, it's Teal'c. It's Teal'c, bro.
Boy. That's all I ever hear him say is boy.
Indeed. I've been waiting for Kratos to say indeed.
So
the language one.
Yes, so I got enough of the language things where I unlocked another realm. And so it's like the fire realm. And there doesn't seem to be a ton there. That is where the... Shit. It's not like a horde mode. It's like a challenge mode, basically. And so you go, you interact with this big sword. And so the first round was... I had to kill X amount of dudes super fast, and there were like 3 levels, and so I beat that, and I got some cool reward from it. And then I went to interact with the second one, and then it's like you have to kill them. No, I'm wrong. The first one was... I don't remember. But the second one was you have to kill them all in like less than 2 seconds of each other. So it's like you have to kill 4 enemies within 2 seconds of each other, which was far more difficult because, like, you need to wear them all down to the end and then whatever. And I got through all of the levels except for the final one, because then it throws the burrowing creatures at you, and they're hard to get all in a row together where you can hit them all at the same time. So anyway, I tried a couple times, kept failing, and so I gave up on that, and I was like, I'll come back later. So it doesn't seem like there's a ton in the fire realm, but it's at least, like, it's a new visual thing, which is what I liked about the elf realm, was it's literally this other universe, this other world that looks very different, which is cool.
Right, that also has oxygen.
Whatever. It's fucking Norse mythology. Who gives a shit? That's what you're worried about, that it has oxygen? Come on.
Yeah, dude, World Serpent, I'm okay with that. Oxygen,
so
come on.
So there are dragons in this game.
Yeah.
Right? I'm assuming you saw the first dragon.
Uh-huh.
That was a side area.
Yes.
Okay. There's another dragon that's a side area that I also did.
Yeah,
but there's a dragon that's in the main quest.
Right.
Did you found that dragon?
Uh-huh.
Okay. That was awesome, I thought. Without going into the details of it, I loved that sequence.
Yeah. I would say I had a lot of frustration with the mechanics of that sequence.
Like, you didn't understand what you were supposed to do?
No, I knew what I was supposed to do, but, like, I was having trouble getting it to work consistently for some reason.
Okay.
So but,
it was a timing thing.
Yeah, the cutscene part of it was very cool. It was directed
and it was one of those where, like, that was old school God of War moments.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Like, early on, that fight that you have with the dude with all the tattoos that comes attacks you in, like, the first couple of minutes. That was a very God of War sequence. This was another very God of War sequence where a lot of the game, it's not like it's subdued. Like, there's still a ton of action happening, but the scale isn't normally as large as that moment was. So that was, like, a fun. And the way that it kind of resolves, that was pretty crazy. And you get the new type of arrows for Atreus, which I thought was really cool. I like using those.
I use those all the time. Those are awesome.
I have him because I haven't unlocked the level 5 stuff, but I have all of his other stuff fully leveled up. Both types of arrows, everything. Yeah. And so I'm kind of at a point where I don't have any more skills I want to buy. And
I'm just buying all of them.
All of my gear that I can level up with experience, I have leveled up as much as I can. Because there are, like, a lot of the Nordic, no, it's not Nordic, runic, a lot of the runic attacks.
Yeah.
I have like 6 for each slot, and a lot of them I don't care that much about, so I just have 2 that I really like, and I've leveled those up, and so now I have all this experience that I don't have anything to spend it on. Like, I haven't unlocked all the moves, like the stuff where you switch stance. I haven't done because I'm like, I'm never going to use that.
Me neither.
And the stuff where you kind of hold R1 or whatever as you're going to throw and it highlights a bunch of dudes. I haven't done that because I'm like, I'm not going to use that. I use the throw like as a really quick hitter thing. I'm not going to sit there and go on a bunch of dudes. So I don't know. It's still a lot of the menus and the customization and the leveling up. All of those systems are still not awesome for me.
Right.
But the world is a lot more interesting now, and I'm still really enjoying the combat. Once I started unlocking more moves, the combat got a lot more deep that I'm really liking. Using the runic attacks and having different options for heavy and light attacks and kind of the combos. And Atreus is a huge badass. Like, he actually does really good damage for me now, and I have him leveled up where I get 4 bow shots, not just 3. So like he can like any dude that has a green health bar, Atreus can just kill him by himself, which is just really it makes it feel like I'm doing a lot more damage because I literally am doing a lot more damage. So yeah, it's still those little problems just still kind of add up, not to significantly dampen my experience, but to make it like not a 10 out of 10. You know what I mean? Like, it's still an awesome game that I'm really enjoying, and like I want to play more of it today, but it's just not. It's not in that upper tier of like the best games I've ever played.
No,
so
not at
that's
all.
Just where I am. But the story and the action is much better than those small negatives that I have. I will say another negative. I think most of the story is good, and I like Atreus. Kratos to me is still kind of one note as a character. Like, versus the original games, he was one note, angry. In this, he's one note, either angry or like trying to be emotionally available in a cheesy, corny, over-the-top way. Like the little moments where like he reaches out, oh, is he gonna pat his son on the back? No, he can't. He's not there yet. Like all of that kind of stuff is just kind of corny.
Yeah.
It's just it's very surface level. So I don't know. I'm not connecting with Kratos the way it sounds like a lot of other folks did, but I do really like Atreus, and I love the side characters. The 2 dwarven brothers are awesome. The witch character is great. The dude who's in the tree, who's like the talking head kind of character, he is fantastic, and I love listening to his stories as I'm paddling the boat around.
He's the first character I've liked.
Okay, all right.
I mean, the witch is fine. She just doesn't do a whole lot.
She doesn't, but she's interesting. She's interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still really, really enjoying the game, but it's not like this, one of the greatest games I've ever played, like a lot of people feel. I have played a little bit of BioShock as well, not a ton because I've been focusing on God of War, but I finished the Sander Cohen section, the Fort Frolic section, and I still love how, because he sends you out to kill these dudes and take their picture, and then when you leave, like he's just like, all right, peace out, and if you want, you can attack him and kill him, and you unlock this special treasure chest. And of course, I always kill him because he's a monster.
Yeah.
And I just love that you can kill him and then take his own picture and you get a little trophy for it. I just love that little moment.
Yeah,
so,
I remember because I didn't initially look
day.
at the trophy list, or maybe that was a hidden trophy back in the day, and like I took his picture like as like a fuck you, and then the trophy popped, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
Or maybe at the time it was probably on Xbox 360, so it was probably an achievement.
Right. So that's kind of everything I've been playing, to be honest. What about you? Have you been playing any new stuff?
Nah, I've barely been playing anything. I played a little more Subsistence, which is that like survival game.
Yes, the Left 4 Dead style game.
No.
What game is Subsistence?
This is just like you're out in the wild, and this is the one that has the AI hunters that will set up bases around you and then assault your base, and you can come across them. This is that one. I started the first Red Dead Redemption on the Xbox One backwards compatibility thing. I just went ahead and bought it through there, and it actually looks pretty good running on an Xbox One. I don't have an X, so it's not 4K, but it actually does.
Okay.
Like, there's clearly some resolution scaling going on, and it makes it look a lot better. I think I'm realizing, going back to that I really don't like how Rockstar games control. Like, because it's like there's a lot of animation priority in the movement, and like the delayed, like you hit forward and there's a delay, and then he steps forward and he takes like a couple steps, and all I did was twitch the stick up once. It's not responsive. It's sluggish, overcommitting.
That's how Naughty Dog games feel to me.
Yeah.
And that's like one of my very few criticisms of their games is I never have loved how the characters move, because it's that sense of momentum that is maybe very realistic, but it doesn't map to using a controller all that well.
Yeah, and I think Rockstar does that more heavily than Naughty Dog does.
Okay.
I think it's even worse in older Rockstar games, and like even going into like GTA 5. They scaled that back a little bit, but I'm hoping for Red Dead Redemption 2 they scale that back even more, just because Snappier is so much better. It's so much better. It looks less immersive, but in terms of, like, you're spending hours and hours and hours in this open world, like, trying to get a horse hitched to a fucking pole is a process. It's a real process. And, like, they knew their aiming controls are complete shit, and instead of fixing them over the years, they just make it lock on. Like, that's not fun either. So I'm having some issues with it in that respect that I didn't have back in the day, but now that like I've played good games with like reasonable
more
control
games.
schemes, games that feel good to play. I have a little more experience with that and more things to hold it up against, and it's a little obnoxious. That's pretty much all I've been playing, but the Stardew Valley multiplayer beta came out, and so for Kara's birthday I think we're gonna either play that or A Way Out today.
Nice.
Together.
Sweet. I completely forgot about A Way Out.
Yeah.
We had intended on playing that, and then we were busy or something, and so we didn't do it that first week, and then the reviews started coming out, and I was like, maybe I don't even care that much to play this game, because it seems like kind of a mini game collection where the mini games aren't even that interesting, and it seems like the writing is kind of bad. So I still do want to play it, but I don't know. I don't know that it might be too mechanics heavy for Kelly to try to play with me, but
sure.
I don't know. I'd be very curious to hear what you think about it if you guys do play it.
Okay.
I guess I've been watching some other stuff, some TV stuff. So still randomly watching some Parks and Rec, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, Seinfeld. Just whenever I'm bored, I play an episode of that. But I watched another episode of Altered Carbon, which may be my last episode of Altered Carbon. So I know I committed to 3 episodes. I watched one more, and it was better. Like, it was a little more interesting, but all the same problems for me still existed. Like, the main dude is still just really flat and boring. I still feel like the dialogue is needlessly expository, where it's just like characters explaining things that don't matter that much. I do really like the sidekick guy, the like Poe hotel owner AI dude.
Yeah,
I really like his
him.
Character.
They get to do some fun stuff with him.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. It's just it's one of those things where there's so much stuff to watch, and I have so many other things that I'm already watching. It's just hard for me to commit to an hour watching this show. So I don't know. I may try to do one more episode and just see what happens, but no promises. The other night, Kelly and I watched John Mulaney's new stand-up, Kid Gorgeous, at Radio City Music Hall. Do you like John Mulaney?
I don't know him.
Okay. He's a stand-up comic. He's really funny. You should check him out. He does like he's a very what's the word? He comes across like he would be very clean, because he's like a young, tall, skinny, handsome guy, wears suits. Like he seems like he would be a very like nice guy type of comedian, and so he gets kind of dark at times and kind of aggressive language wise. I don't know. I just really, really like him as a stand-up. So his new specials on Netflix. We watched it the other night. Very funny. And then I watched the first episode of a documentary called Wild Wild Country. It's on Netflix. It is produced by the Duplass brothers, and it is about this cult from the early 80s, this religious cult that started in like India, and then they were trying to expand, and so they bought this huge tract of land in the United States and like moved thousands of people into like the wilderness next to this really small town. I think it's called like Antelope is the name of the town, where there were like 40 people that lived in this town. And then now all of a sudden there are thousands of people living next to them on this like campus. And it's just like, it seems really fascinating. We watched the first episode, and it was actually Kelly's idea. She thought it looked really cool and interesting. We watched the first episode, and she was like, oh, that was boring. I don't want to watch it anymore. So now if I'm going to watch it, I'm going to watch it by myself, which is very frustrating. So I'll probably still watch some of that. But yeah, reading anything?
I finished. Well, so I had that big event yesterday, and so during the break when they were gone, I went ahead and read the second hardback collection of Kirkman's Outcast. That the one about the demons and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, quote unquote demons. Continues to be really good. Getting like a few more answers as we go along, and it's. Like, it keeps leaving things off in, like, a really interesting place. And they're, like, developing a lot of the relationships between the characters more. And, like, there's some big reveals. So, it's going strong. I like it.
Sweet. What
about you?
Still need to pick up my comics that are sitting in my closet. No, I've just been reading a little bit more Harry Potter. I'm back, like, on the wagon again. I think I have, like, 5 or 6 chapters left of Order of the Phoenix, so I'm going to try to knock that out before next episode so I can start either Prince of Thorns or the Star Wars Aftermath trilogy. I have not yet decided which direction I want to go.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess that's it, which is a lot. Let's dive into some news. So, speaking of God of War, Cory Barlog, who is the game director, he came out a while ago and had mentioned that he wanted to try to take on like a new IP after this. After kind of reimagining God of War, he'd like to try something with a new game. He just had an interview with Kotaku, I believe it was, where they were asking about like future plans for God of War. And he said he has ideas for 5 more games, which is probably too many games for this series. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to keep it interesting, but that sounds like a lot. So I don't know. It's like he's like, oh yeah, I want to start something new, and then also I have enough stuff to make more God of War games for the next 20 years. So who knows? It might just be ideas that he could consolidate, but yeah, I found that to be interesting.
Well, there was a podcast and an interview that Giant Bomb did with maybe it was Cory Barlog, but in it he said that they almost went with ancient Egypt and the Egyptian pantheon of gods.
Okay. All right.
And like talk about dodging a bullet, because Assassin's Creed Origins,
sure,
like, that would have done way too much in such a short time. But yeah, he said that early on that was almost the decision that they made, was to go with Egyptian gods.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense of like they could do a trilogy here and then do another trilogy in a different set of gods.
Right.
I could see that still being interesting. It's more about like, can you change up the gameplay enough? Like, I'm super excited for the next God of War game, because they've clearly proven that they get the combat. They've done good things with the characters that they can expand upon, and I really think that they can learn a lot of lessons from the mistakes they made about the UI and the menus and the leveling up. I think that they can learn a lot of lessons from that stuff.
They need to
I would be
simplify
excited for a
that
sequel.
stuff and scale back on it a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And then we've been talking a lot about E3 stuff. Ubisoft came out and they announced, because they had their earnings call, so they announced that they are going to have For Honor news at E3, which we talked about last episode of, oh, could we see For Honor? Could we see a sequel or some DLC?
Yeah.
I guess they had like a little news live stream where they talked about some new characters and maps and stuff for Honor, so they are continuing to support it, but they did say that there was even more bigger news that they were going to have at E3. So I don't know what that would be. I'm surprised at this, because it felt to me from the outside perspective that this game didn't really set the world on fire.
Yeah.
But Ubisoft is clearly trying to go the games as a service route and really supporting all their stuff. You know, The Division is still getting lots of updates. Ghost Recon Wildlands is still getting lots of updates. So they're continuing to support their games, which I think is very good. It's just surprising that they did it with this game, which seemed like it wasn't all that popular. But that could be wrong on that. Maybe it has a really diehard fan base. I don't know. So, Destiny 2. So we talked a little bit about this last episode of what might be coming in Season 3 of Destiny 2.
Yeah.
So they laid out some plans. And I don't know, it's like you and I, we haven't played Destiny 2 in a long time. I'm not super interested in returning. So it's hard for me. No, that's not true. It's weird that I care still. But I do. I care about what is happening in Destiny 2. And I think it's because there's so much there that I think it could be good. Like, I think it could bring me back. There just needs to be a little bit more there. And so I want it to be there. But anyway, they came out and said that they're going to have a lot of updates at E3, probably at the Sony press conference. They said in Activision's earnings call that there will be a new game mode that they're releasing that is new to the first-person shooter genre. So there are a bunch of things that could be, probably. The thing I think it might be, and hope it isn't, is a Battle Royale mode. Hooray! Battle Royale coming to Destiny 2. And actually, when they talk about For Honor and saying, hey, big update at E3, it's going to be a Battle Royale mode for Honor. Everything's going to get a Battle Royale mode.
I want to jump ahead in time 3 years to when those
to where no one gives a shit about these
are never spoken.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully it's not that, because that's not what's going to make me interested in Destiny 2. But I would not be surprised at all. Like, if I had to make a bet on what it was going to be, it would be a Battle Royale mode.
Because they didn't. It's not like they said a new. That would include like a new way to play,
right?
Or like a new series of content that's new.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
But it's a new game mode, which means something arcadey, something multiplayer focused. So it's got to be Battle Royale.
Yeah, and yeah, like they didn't say that this was a brand new game mode. They just said it's new to first-person shooters. So, and honestly, by that point, it might not be new to first-person shooters. Because if there's one coming to Battlefield, which it sounds like there is, if there's one coming to Call of Duty, which it sounds like there is, every first-person shooter is going to have a Battle Royale mode. And I will not be interested in every first-person shooter that has a Battle Royale mode. They also kind of laid out some changes they're making to the loot system for cosmetics. So one of the problems was you spend real money on the ability to unlock effectively loot boxes. They're engrams that give you random cosmetic items. And the problem was people were spending real money on these and getting duplicates, like things that they already had. And that's kind of shitty. So they're changing the way it works to where now when you buy them, there's like a list of 10 every week that you can get. And so you won't ever get multiples of those 10. So they're trying to, take away the ability to get duplicates. So like, it's a positive change. There are a lot more details on the Destiny 2 kind of like update site. I didn't read that much into it because my eyes glazed over a little bit when because it's called the Prismatic Matrix, and they're talking about like, oh, all these matrices and what. And I was like, okay, I don't really care enough to really read this, but if you're interested, you can check that out. But it seems like it's a positive step to at least have people not spending real life money and getting something they already have, because that is really, really shitty. So yeah. The fact that that's going away is good. We got some new trailers. So there's a new trailer for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which, I mean, it's more than that first trailer was, which was basically just like a 30-second stinger kind of style trailer. This is a little bit more of what the story might be, and it's going to take place in like jungle ruins. I don't know if it's like Mayan or Aztec ruins, but that to me seems cool. One of my criticisms of Rise of the Tomb Raider was that the setting was very samey. It was either icy mountains or forest, and that was the entire game. Versus the first one, there was a little bit more variety. You had like the Chinese or whatever Japanese ruins, and you had the beach area where you were like over the water. There was a ship. Like there was a lot more variety in the places that you were exploring. And in this, it was just two different types of things, and that kind of got old. So with this, if it's the jungle, there might only be one type of area that you're in, but at least it's a new kind of thing that we haven't seen in a modern Tomb Raider game. So that I found to be pretty exciting. I don't know. What did you think?
I thought the trailer itself was like really boring and like
agreed.
It was just like, hey, here's more Tomb Raider. She's killing guys.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't do that much for me. And the whole, like, they seem to be really focusing on her struggle of, like, going too far and becoming a murder machine, which I appreciate that because that was one of the big criticisms about the Uncharted series. It's like, oh, it's this lighthearted action-adventure romp where Nathan Drake kills 600 guys. And, like, they never really talk about that. And I appreciate, because they did this in Rise of the Tomb Raider as well, they started talking about that, where, like, she was becoming a little bit more aggressive in her violence. And so I like that they're trying to tap into that and making that a focus, but it doesn't seem that deep of a focus. It's kind of surface level focus. And the game could be better, but at least in Rise of the Tomb Raider and in this trailer, it doesn't really seem like they're doing as much as they could on that front.
Right.
Also, she looks really different in this.
She does.
Do you feel that way?
She
looks older.
Very different.
She looks older, which I think is the right move. But like, and this is gonna sound very shallow, but so like a game like Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, I felt like Chloe looked really different. She looked older and, frankly, like less attractive, which sounds mean, but like. That's how I felt about it. And I kind of felt the same way in Uncharted 4, like Drake. And I think it's because of how advanced they can go with the graphics. Like, they're making him look even more like, I'm missing the dude's name. Not Nathan Fillion. The dude that plays Nathan Drake. What's his name?
Oh, crap.
What? Shit. Troy Baker and this other guy. They're the ones that do everything. Whatever. So they made it look more like him in real life. He just looks like a more actual human versus like a video game character. And that's fine. And I felt like Chloe was the same way. She looked more like an actual human than a hot video game character. And I feel like they're kind of doing the same thing with Lara now, where she looks more like I guess like a real person than a hot video game character. It just was a little distracting because she looks like a different person. Like, it looks like it's not the same character anymore. So it was distracting. Did you look up his name? Nolan North. Thank you. Yes. Who is he's a very handsome dude. So it's not like
he's rugged.
They made rugged. Yeah, because that's a good description. And then we got a new trailer for Venom, like an actual trailer, not a little teaser. They showed the actual Venom symbiote, so everybody can shut the hell up and stop complaining about that. I know we talked about that last time, where we were like totally fine with them not showing the symbiote. And everybody's like, why would you have a trailer and not show it off? I don't know. Maybe because they're saving something for the actual movie. But now, of course, they had to reveal it because people were bitching.
Honestly, I thought, like, it looks a little glossy.
Yeah. It looks like fake.
Yeah, and like in my brain, Venom is like this dark, thick, inky substance. Like that kind of like sucks in light. Kind of looking, but this is like it's like very reflective and shiny and like shiny. It glistens, which is it's a different look, I guess.
Yeah, it's a different look, but to me, it makes it look more fake. Like it looks like CG. It looks like not great CG, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And going back to Avengers, there is so much CG in that movie.
It's like the whole movie,
but it's mostly good. Like, there are only a couple instances where you think about the fact that it's a bunch of actors standing in front of a green screen.
Right.
And with this, like, this CG seemed bad. And to be honest, the trailer seemed bad. Just the writing seems really corny and cheesy.
It could just be the way the trailer's cut, but I don't know.
It could be. It very much could be. There's that sequence where, like, he's riding the motorcycle and he flies off and then the symbiote comes and it just looks really lame, to be honest with you. It just looks lame. Like, it looks like the original, like, Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, which is a good movie, but it's that lame, corny, cheesy superhero kind of movie that we've moved past now.
Right.
And that's how this feels to me.
Like, that had its time, and I loved it at the time.
Absolutely.
But it's like we're in a different era now.
Yeah. Agreed.
Of those films. It doesn't match up.
And I really like Tom Hardy. And like, he does the voice for the Venom symbiote too, which sounds really cool. And it's not like I think he's doing a bad job. It's just the actual, like, dialogue and stuff. I don't know. It doesn't look like it's going to be good to me, which is a bummer.
Do you think Spider-Man's going to be in it at all?
No.
Good.
No. I think they're purposefully making it a separate thing because they gave those film rights to Marvel. So now, like, they don't have to have a crossover. This is only Sony. Marvel is not involved in this at all. They want this to be the new Spider-Man franchise for them because they co-produce with Marvel on Spider-Man, so they're only getting some of the money. So they want to use everything else they have. And I don't think it's going to work.
Probably not.
So PS Now, PlayStation's games streaming service, now has added some PS2 games. And it's mostly just games that were already available for purchase. So they added Hot Shots Tennis, Dark Cloud 2, and Ape Escape 2, which, like, 3 PS2 games. Those are 3 weird ones to add. Yeah. But those, I believe, were all already available to purchase on PS4, because I know I at least own Dark Cloud 2. So this seems like it's a way of them testing having PlayStation 2 games on PS Now and see the viability there. So hopefully they keep adding more over time. I still feel like PS Now is not what I want to do. Like, I don't want to pay a monthly fee to play these games.
I mean, they must
especially when Xbox has this backwards compatibility stuff.
Right. They must have plenty of success with it, though, because, like, they keep doing stuff with it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never loaded it up once.
Yeah, same. I never did, like, their free trial they had when they first launched it.
Right.
That's just not what I want to do. I don't want to live stream games like that. It's too internet connectivity dependent.
Right.
It just seems like the input lag. I don't know. That's just not how I want to play a video game. Let me download it and play for my system.
Yeah.
Which I could do because I bought Dark Cloud 2, and so now I have it and I can play it that way. Finally, which to me is huge news, there's a new Minecraft update coming, which apparently they announced in November at Minecon, but I just never heard about it because I'm not really following Minecraft news. So this story came out primarily because this will be the last update that will release for the PS4, PS3, Wii U, and Vita versions, and 360 versions of Minecraft. So, like, they're on some kind of old architecture, which they're no longer going to support, so this is the last update. So that was the news story around this, but because of that, I was like, oh, there is a new Minecraft update coming out, and it's called the Aquatic Update, and I just want to talk about it because it sounds really awesome. So it's all, like, underwater stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, a while ago, they had added underwater temples with, like, the new creatures that kind of, like, shoot rays at you or whatever, and they're, like, the treasure chests and stuff underwater, a couple of new types of blocks.
A new boss.
But this is, like... Yes, new boss. But this, they're, like, really expanding it. So they're adding dolphins and other, like, sea life, coral reefs, sunken ships with, like, hidden treasure stuff, icebergs, which all seem really... And, like, there's a new trident weapon that you can throw. And they're adding... In the oceans, they're making new ocean biomes. And so different ones will have different types of, you know, underwater life, different types of treasure, all that kind of thing.
They also completely
you can build an
changed
aquarium.
The way you swim. So now when you swim, your body actually goes horizontal and you move a lot faster if you're sprinting in the water. So, like, you can swim really fast now.
Yeah. So it just sounds really cool. I'm not sure that it's like, because there have been so many updates in Minecraft, you know, adding the shields and whatever the little flying jetpack thing is, and there's just so much stuff that I never really played. I would quickly be super overwhelmed with all the new crafting, etc. But this type of thing, like, I would like to go check this out and go underwater and look a little bit.
Yeah, I've been playing the snapshots as they've released. I have a world that I keep updating with the snapshots because I had a giant cliff face modern home I wanted to build just to, like, de-stress during the show. And I did that, and it has been built. I just need to do all the interior stuff, but it's in a snapshot world, so it's I've been able to, like, do all the updates and stuff. I haven't seen any dolphins yet, but, like, instead of just fishing, like, I think you could still fish, but, like, there are also, like, salmon that are swimming in the rivers that you can actually, like, hit and then get the salmon. So, like, there are those, like, fish swimming around, and, like, the coral, I broke it with a pick, and it became, like, dead coral, so I don't know if there's a way to keep it alive, probably with a silk touch or something.
Sweet.
But yeah, so, and, like, the new swimming is way, way, way better. It's a lot better. But the thing about, like, with breath, because you know how breath used to be, like, it instantly recharges as soon as you're not underwater. Now it recharges slowly.
Okay. But can you breathe longer underwater or hold your breath longer?
I don't think so.
To compensate? I guess that aqua affinity or water breathing is even more important.
And the potions and stuff.
I've actually been randomly, because I've been working a lot on these like the show notes posts and stuff and some fantasy football stuff. And so I'll watch a lot of our old Minecraft Slender and Ender with Bender series, like in the background on YouTube. Yeah. And it just makes me miss the hell out of Minecraft. Like I played a couple weeks ago randomly on PS4 for a couple hours. But obviously it's not the same as diving in on PC and having the infinite world, that kind of thing where you can start from scratch. So I have my little moments where I'm like, maybe I want to play some Minecraft today. So I might do that soon. Before diving into Hate of the Week, so E3 is just a couple weeks away, which is crazy. Or I guess it's like a month away. But we'll only have one more episode before E3. Yeah. So I wanted to take this opportunity and talk a little bit about not necessarily predictions, but more like what we hope will happen. Because I find that to be a lot more interesting. Like what we want to see at E3 on the different press conferences, on the show floor, etc. So I guess starting from... Well, how about you? Throw something out. What do you want to see there?
I really want to see Bethesda's new IP.
Yeah, so they've said they have two new
Starfield or something. I don't know if that was fake. It's not been confirmed or denied or whatever. So I think a sci-fi could be like a really cool interjection, because they have the post-apocalypse, they have the fantasy, and like throw sci-fi into that loop. I think could be really, really neat. It used to be awesome.
Since EA killed Mass Effect, as we all know, with Mass Effect Andromeda, this is a really good opportunity for them to jump in and like make the Mass Effect game that we wanted Andromeda to be. Yeah. And presumably it would still be first person, because that's kind of what they do. And I guess I should say, like, are you envisioning this as a Bethesda Softworks game where it's a big open world RPG?
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, part of me is like, maybe it's like an alien world and it's all sci-fi, or I think the more interesting thing is it's like a galaxy of places for you to go,
where you have like spaceships and stuff,
and like space stations and stuff. And like, because a lot of people didn't care about the settlement building stuff in Fallout 4, but through modding and through the community and stuff and a lot of the feedback, that's been updated and improved upon over time. And so, like, I feel like they've learned a lot of lessons about how those systems could work. And I think that put in a sci-fi setting, like build your own space station or like a space base, could be really, really cool. Like setting up supply lines between space stations and planets and docks and stuff could all be really cool. I just like, because like it seems to me that they are always looking for new systems and mechanics to implement, but they do it just like a couple per game, and they do it in bite-sized chunks, and then they improve upon the ones they've already made and then add some new stuff too. So what I'm excited to see is how they improve upon the existing mechanics, because Fallout 4 was the best feeling Bethesda shooter we've had yet.
Absolutely.
So like, how can they improve upon that? How can they improve upon VATS if it still exists, or if they come up with a totally different system? Like, I don't even know what kind of possibilities they're going to have. I'd almost want it to like be very similar to the first Mass Effect, in that like, you can get like a party of people together, and how the first Mass Effect you could like pause combat and issue orders. Maybe something like that could be really cool, kind of a hybrid between a strategy and a real-time combat. It could be interesting. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities, and I think for as buggy and as janky as those games are, I think they do a lot of things really, really well, and they're not afraid to branch out and try things and take community feedback. And like, also, I mean, in a sci-fi setting, just seeing what the modding community can do with post-apocalypse and fantasy. Imagine what they could do in a sci-fi setting. Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. And I honestly had forgotten about the whole Starfield rumor and that's what they were working on. Yeah. I totally agree. Like, whatever it is, I would love to see their new IP, because I know Todd Howard had mentioned like a year ago that they had 2 new IP games that they were working on. And so if this was one of them, I mean, what you're saying totally makes sense too from a developmental perspective of They made Fallout 4 work better. It's still not amazing, but they made it work better as a first-person shooter. So how can they build on that? You know, the settlement stuff, how can they build on that? And the idea of, like, making a space station, and like, that sounds fucking rad as hell. I would love that.
It super
and
does.
What you're saying about the new systems, you're totally right. They pick and choose a couple of big changes for each game that they make. And to me, like, that big change would be space combat, like vehicular combat, where you have something to control.
Yeah.
They've never really done something on that
they've never
scale
really
before
done
with
vehicles
vehicles
before.
So that, I mean, that sounds like something that they could absolutely try. That would be really, really awesome. So
yeah.
Now I'm really hoping that that's what they do. I think it's probably fair to say that game would be very far off.
Yeah.
Another game I think is probably far off, but I wouldn't mind seeing a teaser for, is the next Elder Scrolls. I mean, it's been rumored for a while. Is it going to be in Elsewhere? Is it going to be in Valenwood? What's going to be happening?
Yeah.
Or could it just be Skyrim 2? Which honestly, I would still be okay with that if that's what the direction they took. But I would love to see them announce both of those. Like if we got a shit, I don't even know what makes more sense timeline-wise, but like in my mind, if we got a teaser trailer for the next Elder Scrolls 6 with, you know, fall 2019, and then if we got a trailer for this new IP, we'll call it Starfield, if they had some actual gameplay to show, but didn't have a release date, because that, I don't know what their timeline is, I don't know what they've been doing. We know they're working on a new IP, we know they're working on Elder Scrolls 6, we don't know where they are, which one would release first, but if they kind of bookended the Bethesda showcase with those two things, that would be fucking incredible.
Yeah, that would be massive. Because, like, right now, I'm not really sure what they have to show off. And
well, like the other Bethesda studios. So, like, so Bethesda Softworks is what we're talking about.
Right.
But that big Bethesda as a publisher, you know, we just got a new Wolfenstein.
Right.
We just, a year and a half ago, we got Dishonored 2. They've already done DLC. Doom 2, maybe?
Maybe.
That game only came out 2 years ago, but maybe
Right.
we get a trailer for Doom 2. What else would there be? I mean, we just got Evil Within 2, so we don't know what they're doing there.
Right.
So I don't know what else that Bethesda publisher will have to show. So hopefully that means it'll be heavy on Bethesda Softworks. I mean, ideal scenario, obviously, is they come out and do what they did for Fallout 4, which is they announce a game, we get like 30 minutes of gameplay across the Bethesda showcase and either Sony or Microsoft, with the fact that it's coming out this fall. Like, that would be the pie in the sky hope for either Elder Scrolls or their new IP. I think it's tough to assume that will happen. But it is, like, Fallout 4 came out in 2015.
Yeah.
That game,
and
like,
Skyrim
be
came out in
2011.
Years.
Yeah.
So that's 3 years.
So there's a chance. You're telling me there's a chance that maybe we could get a new Bethesda game this year. Their team is bigger. They are working on multiple projects at one time, which would tell me that they're trying to push out games faster than their, like, you know, 5-6 year cadence that they typically have been on in the past.
Right. Because, I mean, like,
so who knows?
Because, I mean, for them, I mean, they publish, which gets them some money, right? But, like, Bethesda's a big company, but I mean, I imagine the Softworks games, like, they are huge hits every single time, and so that's the only reason they're able to have such long development cycles, and because they support afterwards with DLC and ports and stuff,
which also all that stuff sells really well,
right?
Absolutely.
And so I feel like that's the only reason they're able to do these long development cycles, and so maybe since game development just gets more and more expensive, it becomes more important for them to try to push out things at a quicker pace.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. He's not happy. So, I don't know. I mean, those were my big points for Bethesda. Because, again, it's hard to guess about the other games from the other studios just because they've had releases recently, and Bethesda Softworks is the one that we're waiting for, and obviously the one that you and I care about the most, because we love those games. So what about EA? Anything that you would like to see from EA?
I mean, you put Anthem on here, and I think that's I don't know how interested I am in Anthem, just because I'm really disenfranchised with or disenchanted with EA at the moment. But
also for me, like with The Division and with Destiny, like those kinds of games have not had the longevity for me the like multiplayer co-op focused experience. So that would be my concern about Anthem. Really what I want is for them to come out and prove to me that even if I wanted to play this game by myself, I would still get a full experience.
Right.
That's my pie in the sky hope for Anthem, is that there's more of a single player focus than The Division or Destiny has had.
Yeah,
and that the multiplayer is an add-on. I don't think that's the direction we're going. I'm just saying, for me, selfishly, that's what I hope.
Okay.
Is that I can get a full experience playing by myself.
Yeah, I just wanna know that it's gonna be good. Period. Like, because they're having a shit time lately. Like,
yeah, I think the only, and it's not a great excuse, but I think the only thing we can hold our hat to is that Andromeda was built by their B team. And it was from day one because their A team was focused on Anthem. Yeah. That to me is the only thing that's keeping me going. But I'm with you. I mean, BioWare has been all over the map the past decade. Like, Dragon Age 2, which I liked, but a lot of people hated that game with the repetition and using the same areas and over and over again.
Yeah, there were parts that were still good. And, like, the combat was a lot of fun. But it was very arcadey compared to the first one, less tactical. They made a lot of significant design changes between the first and second one.
Yes. And then you had Mass Effect 3, which most of the story was still phenomenal. It was the same characters, the same world that we love. I thought the combat was the best in the series.
Oh, totally.
The co-op multiplayer was awesome. Obviously, the ending overshadows everything else. But even beyond that, like, it was less of an RPG than it's ever been. You know, there were very few side quests.
Yeah.
They were mostly just, like, scan this planet to get an item and bring it back to me on the Citadel. Like, that was the side quest. And so it lost a lot of that RPG depth that it's had in the past. You know, Dragon Age Inquisition had a lot, it was a pretty buggy game. The story wasn't awesome, but it was okay. I really liked that game in general, the experience of it. I liked what they did with the squads and being able to play as any character you want and experiment with the different powers. I really liked that aspect of it. And then obviously Andromeda, which was a complete shit show, dumpster fire. So like the quality overall has been lower than it was, for Dragon Age Origins, Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, Knights of the Old Republic. Like, those games are so phenomenal. Their recent games have not, even the best of their recent games have not been as good as those.
Right.
So it's like, there's a little bit of nerves when it comes to BioWare now, because really it's been since EA acquired them that their games have been suffering a little bit. So I don't know. I still think that they have some of the most talent of any studio out there. It's just, can they really tap into it with this new IP? There's a lot of stuff that seems very cool about Anthem. I just don't want it to be another Destiny, obviously.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know a whole lot about it. I need to see more about it.
Yeah, and I mean, I cannot imagine a world where we don't get gameplay of Anthem.
Oh, for
at
sure.
E3.
There'll probably be one of those
it's coming out next year, but
one of those dumb multiplayer sessions of the canned chatter betwing people. I bet we get something like that.
I mean, they did that last year. They might do another one of those and show a mission. But I mean, it did get delayed to 2019, and I think they're targeting spring 2019, but I might be making that up.
Okay.
But if it is relatively new, within the next year, I don't think they can get away with just a gameplay trailer, just a 2 or 3 minute trailer. I think they need to show more than that.
They need to show what a big raid is going to look like or something.
Sure. And or more story too.
Yeah.
A mission that's more story involved versus, again, like you said, the chatter of yeah, use this move on these dudes like that. I'm not getting that much out of that.
Yeah.
Show me a little bit of the story and this world that you're trying to build.
Yeah. Can't play too late tonight, guys. It's Thursday. Got to work tomorrow.
Yeah. I'd also like to see Respawn's Star Wars game.
Yeah.
So EA, obviously, they canceled the single-player game that Amy Hennig and that studio was working on.
It must have been a trash fire for them to cancel it because...
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that has so much promise on paper. It must have been a total mess.
Well, and I think we talked about it on one of the podcasts, but there was a news story that came out. I think it was Jason Schreier, probably. Whenever there's like an investigative video game report, I assume it's Jason Schreier at Kotaku. But where like they talked to a bunch of behind the scenes folks, and it seemed like there were a lot of issues. Like we look at it from an outside perspective, and we're like, oh, a single player story driven Star Wars game focusing on bounty hunters, written by the woman who helped create Uncharted. Fuck yes. Everything about that, yes. Yeah. And so it's easy for us to look at it, and then when they cancel it and say, fuck you, EA, this would have been the best game ever made, because we don't know what was happening behind the scenes.
Right.
And if this report is to be believed, it sounds like the game had a lot of problems, and kind of the scale being too large, changing the direction midway through development, some leadership issues with Amy Hennig and the other leadership that were on the team. So if the report's to be believed, that game was not coming together in the way that it needed to, which makes it a little bit more understandable of why EA would kind of cancel that.
Right.
All that said, Respawn, super talented studio. Titanfall 2 was an awesome game.
Yeah.
The fact that it's going to be another first-person shooter, presumably, along with Battlefront, makes me a little less excited because I want a third-person action-adventure story-focused kind of thing. But looking at what Respawn did with Titanfall 2 and the story of that game, how awesome it was, I believe that they could put together something really, really cool that helps take away the bad taste of that Battlefront 2 campaign.
Yeah, and I also think that DICE's shooters feel significantly different than the Respawn shooters we've had with Titanfall.
Agreed.
I think Titanfall feels a lot tighter, more Call of Duty, which actually didn't Respawn help with one of the Call of Duties?
They originally made Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2.
Okay.
And then they left Activision to do their own thing.
That's right. Yes, that makes a lot of sense then. And so
it was the leads. The lead guys that started Respawn, they were the leads at Infinity Ward. Okay. And they quit to go make their own studio, which is Respawn.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And so I think there's space for those two, because like there's a space for Call of Duty and Battlefield. I think there can be a space for a tighter, narrative focused, with obviously I'm sure they'll have a multiplayer element because like games as a service. But
maybe a battle royale mode.
100
Choose your
stormtroopers drop
100 Jedis drop into a temple.
Anakin kills all of them.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. So I think there's room for both a heavy narrative focus and then like the more multiplayer focused Battlefront games. So I think there's space for both. And I honestly, personally, more excited for this than I would be for whatever DICE is shitting out their collective assholes.
100% agree. Absolutely. So moving on to Ubisoft. So we know they're going to have The Division 2. They've already announced that. I'm not super interested. I guess similarly to Anthem, what would make me interested is making me believe that if I played through all of the content by myself, that I would still get a full experience. That's kind of what I would want out of a Division 2 reveal.
Okay.
We also talked about this last episode, but an open world Splinter Cell game would be fucking awesome.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
That'd be a really cool thing to close the show with.
I'm ready for that.
Yeah, totally agree. So even though Ubisoft, all they do is open world games and they all feel pretty similar, there's enough newness to Splinter Cell in a mechanical perspective with more focus on stealth. It could be a little bit more like Metal Gear Solid 5, where like there's the open world quest structure with like chapters, that kind of thing. If they followed a little bit of that blueprint, I think could be really cool. So we'll see. Obviously, I'm sure they'll have a bunch of stuff I won't care about, like a dancing game and a racing game or whatever. But those are kind of the big things that jump out to me that would at least get me excited for Ubisoft games in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think the end of Ubisoft's conference needs to be a black stage, and then you just see 3 green lights pop on, and then Michael Ironside like crawls up over the edge of the stage. I
was with you until that last part.
Michael Ironside rappels down the side of the screen.
We can hope. Maybe.
I don't know if he can.
Maybe he just hosts the whole thing.
Yeah.
He's the new Aisha Tyler.
Yeah.
So moving on to the big 3 here. So Microsoft, it's a little more difficult just because I personally don't care about most of their exclusives, like Halo, Gears of War, Forza. I just don't really care. Crackdown 3. I'm sure all of those will be present in some way. I'm sure we'll get Crackdown 3 gameplay. I'm sure they'll announce a new Forza or some kind of racing game. I would not be at all surprised for a Halo 6 teaser trailer. I would not be at all surprised for a Gears 5 trailer. I just don't really care about those. So for me, in order to get me excited about this press conference, I would want some kind of new IP from one of their studios that looks cool. No idea what it would be, but that's something that could potentially get me excited, is a new IP and not just yet another sequel on a franchise that they've been making for the past 15 years.
Right.
One thing I did add to them, just because, you know, there's some third-party stuff, some of which will be at Sony, some of which will be at Microsoft. One thing that I would like to see that I think could make sense for Microsoft is a reveal for The Wolf Among Us Season 2. That's just something I think that maybe they could have there. Telltale's new version. I loved Wolf Among Us, and they've already said they're working on Season 2. So if they announced that and said, hey, it's starting in January or whenever else pretty soon, that could get me pretty hyped. But that's not really Microsoft related because I would play it on PlayStation. But yeah. Anything that they could have for you that would make you get excited? So I mean, you care more about Halo than I do.
Yeah, but not with 343 making it. I want a new studio. I don't think they're doing anything good with it. And this could be at Microsoft's or Sony's, but maybe something on like a new Resident Evil game. Because, I mean, because 7 came out at the beginning of last year, so it's been a year and a half, and they've done all the DLC they're going to do for it. And I feel like Resident Evil 7 did very, very well for them, and I feel like if they want to strike while the iron's still hot and people are still like, yeah, Resident Evil 7, okay, maybe they tease something or they announce like, hey, this is going to be 8 or something. I don't know. I feel like that's probably like a next year thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably where I would guess. Like, it seems a little too soon, but like, what would you think? Like, what would you expect from a new Resident Evil? Would it be first person again?
Probably. I think
that's
people
the new direction.
Reacted well to it, and I enjoyed it certainly. I don't know what the next Resident Evil looks like. Honestly, I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Resident Evil person, but it certainly seems like, I know you liked Resident Evil 5, but people don't look at that game with a ton of great feelings, and certainly Resident Evil 6 most folks hated, and then now that they moved to first person and made it a little bit more horror and not as actiony with Resident Evil 7, it seemed like that really connected with folks. So I think it makes sense to try to, like you said, strike while the iron's hot and stick with that as the aesthetic for Resident Evil 8 or Resident Evil 7 Biohazard 2, whatever they call this game.
Right.
That would probably be a bad title. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard 2. That would be a bad title. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, because then in Europe it would be Biohazard 2.
What?
Because in Europe and Japan it's Biohazard, not Resident Evil.
Oh, interesting. So it would just be called Biohazard 2?
I guess.
Yeah. What about Sony? So this is kind of the one that we're most invested in. We're definitely going to get The Last of Us Part 2. I would guess that we'll have like some kind of gameplay demo where you're actually seeing some of the combat, some of the story characters, etc. I would love to get a firm release date sometime in the spring of 2019. I think would be nice. Kingdom Hearts 3 is a potential. This is another one that, it could theoretically be at Microsoft, but they've partnered with Sony in the past. There's still a chance that this game's coming out this year, which I find hard to believe, but that would certainly be cool if they had like a November release date. Right now, the fall is looking a little weird for game releases.
It is.
Because, Red Dead and Call of Duty are both in October. Granted, we don't have the Battlefield release date, which that could be November, but they could try to get out ahead of Call of Duty as well and maybe do even earlier in October. Who knows? But if Kingdom Hearts 3 did like a November release, it would be kind of by itself right now. So I could see that if the game will be ready, but I don't think it will be ready.
I don't think so either. I just realized probably we see something on another Hitman.
Okay.
Because
like a season 2 or whatever.
I think they said there are rumors of a season 2, so I wonder if we could probably see something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Plans for like an outline.
Well, and I mean,
that's gonna look like.
IO Interactive bought the Hitman rights, so that they can do whatever they want with the game. So I don't know if they would call it season 2 or if it would be a new Hitman or whatever, but I think the episodic structure seems like it worked really well for that game.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be cool. I could see that at a Sony press conference for sure.
Yeah.
We're gonna get more Days Gone. They did delay that to 2019, but I think we see some more. It might just be like a trailer because we've already seen a lot of gameplay of that game.
Right.
And if they're gonna show The Last of Us 2, they are still fairly similar aesthetically, and that would maybe be a little bit too much post-apocalypse zombies woods vibe. So I could see it just being a trailer, some kind of dramatic, slow cover of a rock song cheesiness.
It probably like they would want to introduce whoever the villain is going to be because we don't have that. We don't know that kind of information yet.
Yeah, that's true.
Like if there is a proper villain, or kind of just introduce what the big conflict is going to be. I could see that.
Yeah. A little more of the story.
Yeah.
I would love a Guacamelee 2 release announcement because they've already said that they're working on it. We got a trailer for it. They said it's coming soon. So I would want us to get a trailer for Guacamelee 2 that ends with available now. That's what I want to happen. Because Guacamelee 1 is a phenomenal game, and I would really, really like to play Guacamelee 2 this summer. That sounds like an awesome summer game.
Yeah. Those are my favorite things out of E3 is
the available nows. Yeah, we haven't had any big ones recently,
because
right?
They did 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? They did crud. What was the demo for the Silent Hill game that never came out? PT. There was like, you can download the PT demo right now and stuff like that.
Yeah. That was cool.
Yeah, we've been missing out on that lately.
I mean, obviously it's a risky marketing move to do that because you don't know if it's going to work or not. But for the consumer, it's a fun
basically,
thing.
The whole world is watching at that moment.
It's true.
Like the entire gaming community is watching at that moment. So.
And then Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Oh, yeah.
Did you write this?
Yeah, I did. I put that in there. I would like to see anything on that, please.
I agree with you. It's a tough one just because we've seen so little of it. Like, part of me doesn't think it's actually going to happen because we've seen so little about it. But obviously, some kind of trailer or gameplay sequence, whatever, would add validity to the fact that it's a real thing that's actually going to come out at some point.
Yeah, and they're saying like they want to release it over the course of like 2 or 3 installments. So like I don't know if like that's still the case or like, I don't know
what that would even mean.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like such a weird project. But obviously a potentially cool one. Doing it some kind of modern action combat system would be really rad, so who knows. And then finally Nintendo, who's on Tuesday. So they're having like a Splatoon 2 and a Smash Brothers tournament on that day, like in between their, not press conference, but their direct or whatever live stream, whatever you want to call it. They're still saying that this new Smash is coming out in 2018. And if that's the case, they have to show us more about it. Like there has to be an actual trailer with real fighting happen, reveal some of the characters. And I still am praying to God that this isn't just upgrading the Wii U version on Switch. I really hope that it's a new game with some new characters, new maps, etc. I would be really disappointed if it was just the Wii U version on Switch. So hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah, same.
I
mean, I don't really care either way, but
I know you don't care.
But for the people who are excited about it, I hope that is the case.
Like most people, yes.
Like the 1 or 2 people that are into it.
So I know what you would care about is Animal Crossing.
Yes. Oh my God. So I think Animal Crossing Pocket Camp is just doing too well for them. I think it's doing too well. I don't know what their retention is like globally, but I know it's still really big in Japan, and that's making them a lot of money. And so I know like a console Animal Crossing without all this monetization implementation that doesn't make as much fiscal sense. And I also know that recently Nintendo came out and said someone working at Nintendo said something to the effect of, all we need is like one really big mobile game and we could make a ton of money and be in a really good spot. So
then make good mobile games.
Right. So this is a total pie in the sky Animal Crossing on Switch, but it's time, man. It is so time.
I would not be surprised at all by this. I mean, they've had an Animal Crossing on every major home console, haven't they not?
Yeah, and like it makes so much sense because their mobile Animal Crossing stuff, like the handheld Animal Crossing stuff, performed very well for them.
Yep.
And like that's a great way to play it, be able to bring it with you and still get your time in every day. And the Switch is both a console and a portable, so it's like it's the perfect platform for this. For a core Animal Crossing experience. Man, I want it so bad.
Well, hopefully that does happen. I would say probably my biggest hope is Pokemon.
Oh, man.
I would lose my shit.
I would,
especially because I own a Wii or a Switch now. Like I remember I think it was like after E3 last year when we did kind of our E3 wrap-up episodes, which were like some of our first podcasts.
Well, because they came out and said they were working on a Pokemon game.
That they were working on a home console Pokemon game, and I was like, that would get me to buy a Switch. Well, guess what, bitches? I already got the Switch, so now I can be even more excited for a Pokemon game.
Yeah.
Obviously, they mentioned they had just started working on it, so it's not like I think this is coming out before 2020, but maybe it could come out before 2020, and maybe we could get some kind of trailer, even if it's just a simple like, fade up from black, and like you see this meadow with a bunch of grass, and then like a character who's shadowed walks out into the grass, and then all of a sudden like some combat music starts to play. It swipes, and then you just like see his face with you like just see the hat with the little L, and he just turns around like he flips the hat backwards like Ash always does when he goes into combat.
Yeah.
If that's all we got, just that kind of little stinger, little teaser trailer, I would lose my shit. I'm getting excited just thinking about this. That would be a really good teaser trailer. I'm going to call Miyamoto or whoever I need to call at Nintendo right now and pitch that. They have a month. They could put a trailer together like that.
But like, what if it's this fucking Pokemon Battle Coliseum, whatever shit, where like you're capturing the shadow Pokemon from other trainers?
I don't think so. I feel like Nintendo knows their audience better than that. They know, especially after like Pokemon Coliseum came out on 64, like they haven't had another home Pokemon game since then. I mean, like Pokemon whatever. Yeah, they
have several. They had several on GameCube, and they had several on Wii that were like these shitty off-brand Pokemon games.
Right, but they weren't Pokemon combat games. It was like the Pokemon whatever Dungeon Rescue.
No,
like those offshoot.
The ones I'm talking about are like you play as a trainer and you're going through a story. You have your own team and there's like normal battles, like 3D rendered Pokemon, but they selected a few Pokemon to be in the game, not all of them, and from different generations. And you're battling these other trainers who have like shadow Pokemon, and you like capture them, and like from the other trainers you catch their Pokemon and then like de-shadow them, and then you can use them in your party. And like I forget what they're called.
What is this game?
I know there was like a Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness or something. Pokemon
the fuck?
GameCube.
I've never heard of this, and maybe because it was bad.
Yeah, I mean it's XD Gale of Darkness I think was GameCube. Yeah, that was a GameCube one. Oh god, and then I think just Pokemon Coliseum on the GameCube was another one that was like that.
Coliseum was on 64.
But there's also a Coliseum on the GameCube.
Oh, all right.
And then Pokemon Battle Revolution on the Wii.
Wow, I've never heard of these. And it's probably because they're bad.
Yeah, they're really bad, and I'm worried that's what it's going to be like.
Yeah, I still feel like my point stands, though. They know that what people want is an open world-esque traditional Pokemon game on Switch, and because they have the home and mobile crossover, that makes so much sense. And I'm not saying they just make Pokemon Sun and Moon,
Pokemon Go Switch.
Right. It's not like they just make Pokemon Sun and Moon on Switch and it's the same exact kind of thing. You have to make it a little bigger, a little grander because it's a home console game. But like if they made it Breath of the Wild style, where it was a straight up third person from the back open world game like Breath of the Wild, where it had like puzzle mechanics and you used Pokemon in, like, you didn't just teach them to cut down a tree. Like, there was some kind of puzzle that you had to use different types of Pokemon to help solve. Like, that kind of game with the combat being centered around battles. And they could be real time. I don't know. Like, maybe, you carry your 6 Pokemon, and instead of cutting away to a turn-based battle, it's more like you come across a random Pidgey out in the wild, and you have your Pokemon, your 6 Pokemon, you select them with the D-pad, you throw out the Venusaur, and then I don't know if you control the Venusaur, or if you can give him specific attacks to use, or whatever. I don't know how that works, but like, something like that I think they can do. And that, to me, sounds really cool. Like, it sounds like a modern take on the handheld version of Pokemon. Like, it sounds like a bigger, grander scale of a Pokemon game.
But it also sounds like more work than they would ever put into a Pokemon game.
I don't agree. I don't agree with that. They are treating their IP with a lot more care than they have in the past. And they're seeing success from that on the Switch. What they've done with their Switch games, their first-party games, they're not shovelware. They're not, we just need to get these out to sell this console. They know that they can take their time because the Switch is selling so well and has sold so well. And it's proven the games like Super Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, that they put a lot of development and thought into are phenomenal games that win awards and sell millions of copies. I feel like they're learning. Nintendo's becoming a more modern company with more new ideas than they have in the past. I just can't imagine that they're going to make it a Pokemon Go style experience, or just do Pokemon Sun and Moon available on Switch, or do a Pokemon Coliseum type game. I just can't imagine that's what they're going to do. But that might be more hope than it is actual belief. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, my ideal game is like what you said, totally open world, 3D. You fight as the Pokemon in the battles, real time, and it's every region ever fully modeled in 3D, and you can run through it, and like no load times for the buildings. You open a door and you're in a Pokemon Center, and like you're talking to people. And you can go into the casino, and you can like play slots and do all that fun side stuff that they have in the games, but also the fun sides. Like, there are festivals going on in different towns. The stuff that's fun from the shows where they build out the world, inject more of that to make it feel more real, and feel more like a place you want to stay. And just have all of the Pokemon in it. Don't make multiple versions.
Like all 700?
Yeah, have all of the Pokemon in it, all of the regions. Like you said, a little like more puzzle elements, and make it like this big grand story with like, I don't even, like hundreds of thousands of hours of gameplay. And even if like, crazy idea, they release a region at a time, and there's like a story through line that carries you from region to region, but it's one region at a time, and the rest of the regions are like either buying DLC or like expansions essentially off the main game. Like every year or so they release another of the regions or something. And like, I don't know.
I think Nintendo has yet to prove that they get the games as a service thing.
Well, for sure.
Would be my only thing about that, and especially even online multiplayer, it sounds like they're still struggling with the idea of having all the regions and the open world to explore. Totally. I think when it comes to the combat, if they have all 700 Pokemon and you actually are controlling the Pokemon while you fight, that I have a hard time thinking could happen, because that's a lot of combat to create unique moves.
Well, that's why I'm saying they split it into the regions, and they tackle it region at a time. But like, honestly, they have a lot of that animation stuff down from like previous games they've done. Like Pokemon Go, they have a lot of those idle animations already programmed for a lot of the Pokemon, and including some combat animations like Pokemon Coliseum and different stuff like that. Like, those animations already exist in some form for many different Pokemon. For many different moves. I don't know.
I mean, I just want it to be a modern take on a traditional Pokemon experience.
Sure.
That's what I'm looking for. Not a gimmicky thing.
Right.
If that's what it is, I will be happy.
Me too.
All right. So, let's jump into Hate of the Week.
Hate of the Week.
So, this episode's Hate of the Week belongs to aggressive sports fans. So this is like an epidemic of colossal proportions. I mean, globally, this is a problem. Obviously, you see all the news stories of like people fucking dying at soccer matches because folks get in a fight and someone throws someone else over a, like down flight of stairs. Like that stuff happens crazy. That's not super what I'm talking about here. I mean more on a smaller, pettier scale of aggressive sports fans. So these are the people that like will want to get in a fight with you or yell at you because you like a team that they don't like. Like those, like you go to the bar and, hey, the Atlanta Falcons are playing the Colts. And I go to the bar and I'm wearing my Colts shirt. And everyone there is a Falcons fan, and some dude gets all up in my face, and he's yelling at me, telling me how the Colts suck, blah, blah, blah. Those kinds of people. I remember, this was a while ago, a couple years ago, but there was, when Dad was in town, and him, Kelly, and I went to an Atlanta Falcons NFL game, and they were playing the Colts. And so we went and rooted for the Colts. We were wearing Colts shirts, and there was a dude sitting in front of us that the entire game kept turning around, shitting on the Colts and like being a drunk asshole and like ruining the experience, just being a dick. And my thing is like, are you on the Atlanta Falcons? Are you a player? Is your son on the Atlanta Falcons? Do you own the team? What is your investment in the Atlanta Falcons? Why are you a fan of them? Because you live in the town that they play in. Yeah. That's why you like the team. That's the only connection you have to the team. Guess what, buddy? If next year the Atlanta Falcons announced that they were going to move to Minnesota and they were going to be the Minnesota Falcons, you would fucking hate them. You would hate every player. You would boo them every chance you could get. You aren't a Falcons fan. You're a fan of the team that plays in your town. You don't even give a shit. And it just made me think of Jerry Seinfeld has a really old bit about this, where it's like you aren't rooting for a team because if the team moves, you would boo them. You aren't rooting for the players because there's already proof that like if a player moves to a different team, you hate that player now. You boo that player whenever he comes to town. You're not rooting for the team. You're not rooting for the town. You're not rooting for the player. You're just rooting for the shirt. The shirts that these guys wear. That's what you're rooting for. The jersey, the shirt. And so, like, you see a team or the player moves and he's now on a new team. You're like, boo! Wrong shirt! Wrong shirt! Boo! Like, that's what you're rooting for, is you're rooting for a shirt. And so, I don't know. It just, like, I get being a passionate sports fan. There are a lot of teams that I really like. I like the NFL. I like college basketball. I'm a big Colts fan. I'm a Cubs fan. Like, there are teams that I root for that I enjoy. But I would never get in someone's face. Like, so the Indiana Hoosiers, college basketball team, I'm a fan of them. Their big rival, Purdue Boilermakers, another Indiana college. They're huge rivals, have been for years and years and years. If someone was rooting for the Purdue Boilermakers in a game where they were, like, I would not get in that guy's face and be threatening him and just making fun. Like, that's so sad is what it is. It's sad.
It's childish and sad.
And again, like, your investment in this team is so... You choose to like this team. Nothing about this team is intrinsic to your life where you... It's not like we're at war and you're rooting for the United States against North Korea. This is not life and death where the outcome matters to your life. This is two sports teams with people getting paid, at least on the professional level, getting paid far more money than I will ever see in my entire life. Like, who gives a shit, really is what it is. And I'm not saying don't root for folks. I love watching sports. I like rooting for my teams. And against the teams I don't like, I hate Tom Brady with a passion. I hate the Patriots. I will always root against them. But if someone is rooting for the Patriots, I'm not going to try to fight that person. Come on. Let's all grow up a little bit here.
No.
Maybe it's the beer. It's the beer's fault, probably.
No, people are just assholes. No matter where you go.
And people.
Anywhere people gather, It's a problem because people.
Yeah, that's true. So before wrapping up, we did get an email. So thanks to Aaron, who wrote in after I basically begged people to write in emails last episode. So Aaron wrote in. It's kind of a twofer. So one, we have a correction about the game we talked about last episode called Brawl Out. So I mentioned that it's coming to PS4. They added Juan from Guacamelee, the Hyperlight Drifter dude, but that it seemed like a weird Smash Brothers knockoff and a bunch of characters nobody knew about. Well, all that's true, but what we didn't realize, and I should have looked into, that game already came out a while ago on Switch.
Oh.
And so, like, there are reviews in it. I think it has, like, a 50-some on Metacritic, maybe like a 60. So it does seem like it's kind of a bad game. Okay. And they added Juan and the Hyperlight Drifter guy for the PS4 version. So that makes a lot more sense of why those are the only two characters. Obviously doesn't make me want to play the game anymore.
No.
But, so that's my fault for not looking into that. I should have done that. It seemed like it was a new game announcement, but it was just that it was coming to PS4 from Switch. So thank you, Aaron, for that. He also writes in, and I will read this verbatim. I'm really bummed about Dark Souls being delayed for the Switch. I never got around to playing it, so I figured this would be a great time and a great game to play on Switch since it is a last-gen remaster. I may end up getting it on my PS4 Pro if the wait is too long, which bums me out. Leads me to a larger point. I really want more Switch releases alongside other platforms. I like my Switch, and in many cases, the portability outweighs the enhanced graphics on the PS4. But I often end up picking the game up on PS4 because I don't want to have to wait 6 months, which is incredibly irritating. I agree on that. I'm really hoping this gets better in that regard, and I assume it's safe to say you guys feel similarly. So I will say I do feel similarly. I would love it if more games released simultaneously on Switch versus PlayStation, Xbox, etc., PC. I do want that to change. Unfortunately, I don't see it changing because the architecture of the systems are so different. So this, you can go back to the Xbox 360, PS3 days, where the architecture of those systems were so different that a developer had to pick a platform to be its lead platform, its main development platform. Most of that happened on Xbox 360 because it sold a lot better. And so I guess you didn't often see PS3 releases happening afterwards, but you did see them being unoptimized because the PS3 version, not that it was an afterthought, but it was additional development work versus the main 360 platform.
Right.
The Switch is selling very well, but it has not sold like the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4. And the PlayStation 4 seems to be the main development system for a lot of developers. But because the PS4 and the Xbox One are so similar, there isn't a huge difference. You're not seeing a downgraded version of a game on Xbox. But because the Switch is so different, they have to think about a different type of controller, different additional screen, the mobile ability, that it's far less powerful than either of the other systems. I just don't see them looking at a Switch the same way they look at it as an Xbox One and a PS4. Would it be nice if they all released at the same time? Absolutely. But I do think that would cause the Switch version to be unoptimized like the PS3 version was. I personally would rather wait for a game to release on Switch, like with Dark Souls, and feel like I'm getting the best of possible experience of that game on Switch.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like a game-by-game basis, right? So, like, the games that are less important to me, that I feel like I can wait on, I would prefer to get on Switch just because, like, honestly, my two favorite platforms at the moment are PC or Switch because I can play both sitting at my computer watching videos. Like, PS4 and Xbox One, I have to, like, that is singularly what I am doing because it's out in my living room.
Right.
I don't, like, have the capability. I mean, I guess I could move another TV out and, like, I don't know, hook Kara's laptop up to it and load up videos or something crazy like that.
Right.
And, like, sometimes I will load up something on my phone and play it via my Bluetooth soundbar while I'm playing a game on the TV and just, like, listen to stuff. Sometimes I'll do that, but I just don't really like doing that. So if it's a game that I'm less invested in initially, I would probably be okay with waiting for the Switch. But if it's a game like God of War was initially for me, and I guess more recently, oh God, what's the other game? Oh, Far Cry 5, because I was like excited to play it.
Yes.
I wanted to get those right away. So,
yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it's kind of, for me, it's kind of a pick and choose. I mean, obviously, like, Wish Upon a Star, everything came out at the same time. But, realistically, I think I'm in your camp, Shea, of I would rather wait for the best version of it for games that I'm not really invested in before they come out.
Yeah. And obviously, like, that doesn't make it any more enjoyable to not be able to play the thing you want to play the way you want to play the thing.
Right.
That still sucks. But I would just prefer that to being able to play it, like being able to play Dark Souls on Switch on May 25th and having it be a crappy experience.
Right.
Because that you can't take back. I think it's Miyamoto that always said, like a delayed game is eventually good. A bad game is always bad. That's a paraphrase. But basically the message is like, would you rather a game release right now and have it not be finished? Or would you rather wait a couple months and have it be the best version of that game? I think anyone would rather wait and have the better version of that game. And I think this is an example of that.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Aaron. I agree it's frustrating to not be able to play it. I will say, I mean, they've said that it'll come out in the summer, so it shouldn't be a super long wait, a couple months probably. So if you want to be able to play it on Switch, be able to play it on the go, and you haven't played Dark Souls before, I would say it's worth waiting, but that's just me. I certainly wouldn't blame you for picking it up on PS4 since you can get it sooner, though.
Yeah, especially like when it's over the summer and you're probably going to be out going places, doing things more. It makes more sense to like try and get the portable version of it.
Yeah. So thank you, Aaron, for the email and for the correction as well. If anyone else wants to write in an email, you can send to info@SheaHatesEverything.com, or you can shoot me a message on our Facebook page, which is /SheaHatesEverything, or on Twitter @Shea_Castle. Whatever is easiest for you, we just want to hear from you so we can talk about you and tell you how smart you are, just like we did for Aaron. You're smart, buddy. Thanks. I'm like giving finger guns at the computer screen right now, but no one can see it.
No one can see it. Audio format.
So speaking of audio format, reiterate, check out SheaHatesEverything.com. All of our podcast show notes are there. If you heard anything here that you want to see a little bit more about, that's a great place to go. Read the articles, watch the trailers, etc. So to wrap up the episode, I will say that today I don't hate clothes shopping, which sounds really lame, but Kelly and I are going to the outlet malls today. We both still have some birthday money left over, so we're going to buy some clothes. I'm going to go to the Vans outlet, get some new shoes, going to get a couple new button-down shirts, maybe a short sleeve, might get a new pair of jeans. It's a very adult thing, but I enjoy clothes shopping.
You enjoy clothes shopping when you have money.
Sure, fair enough.
Because otherwise, it's Kohl's discount rack all the way, and that's not fun.
But even that's fine. Like I go to Target a lot. Like I get some jeans from Target, T-shirts, etc., which are super cheap. I just like clothes shopping. I like going and looking to see what they have. I like fashion.
Yeah, I buy a lot of like novelty shirts and stuff.
Yes.
And my most recent purchase, I got it, and then that day I decided to wear it on Friday. It is Reading Rambo, and it's the Reading Rainbow iconography, but it says Rambo instead of Rainbow, and it has, I can't remember the black guy's name, but it's a black guy from Reading Rainbow, but he also plays Geordie LaForge on Star Trek Next Generation. So it's him as Geordie LaForge, but with ripped Rambo arms firing a machine gun and screaming. So it has a lot of layers.
That's too many things.
It has a lot of layers.
That's too many things.
It's really good. It's really good.
If it was just Rambo, I'd be more on board. Reading Rambo with Rambo, Sly Stallone with the machine gun with the Rambo over his head, that I can follow. But the addition of him as Geordie is weird. That's what
makes
to me.
it good.
That's where it loses.
That's what makes it good.
All right, that's fine. It's your shirt. The only person that needs to love it is you, and I guess Kara, because she is going to see you the most.
Yeah.
Wearing
well,
it.
And so for Kara's birthday, we went to one of the breakout games things. We did one of those, the breakout room.
Oh, the whatever room.
Yeah.
What's that called?
Yeah, room escape.
Puzzle room.
Yeah.
Escape room.
Escape room. We did one of those, and the guy who was giving us the presentation thing at the beginning, he kept looking at me. He's like, and right after he finished, he's like, "I'm sorry, I just gotta say, where did you get that shirt?" It was tripping me up the whole time. I love it.
That's
and then
awesome.
as we were leaving the place, we like took our picture and we were like walking out, and a guy from another group like did a double take and was like leaning around Kara's dad to look at my shirt. So
yeah,
I got it that day, and that day 2 people were very interested in it. So it's a fascinating piece of apparel. Anyways, today I don't hate slippers because it's a little chilly in my house.
Clothing.
Yeah, it's true. It's a little chilly in my house, and my feet were cold, and I put on my slippers, and everything got better.
What kind of slippers are they?
They're like the open back. So, because my feet sweat like crazy, like really, really
Mine
bad.
too.
So I had those like really plush, furry ones, and those got nasty after like a week, and they smelled terrible. So I just got these like memory foam ones with no back.
Okay.
So those aren't.
That's smart.
Yeah.
I should get something like that.
Yeah.
Because the slippers I wear are Batman slippers that are like the big they're like fully enrapture my foot, and they have a big Batman on top. They're awesome, but yes, my feet also sweat.
And I think
a lot.
Those ones are probably really old.
They are old,
and so they probably smell super terrible.
Probably. I have not stuck my nose in there, nor would I. But I imagine they're not like a garden meadow.
Yeah. My other ones, the furry ones, as soon as I would take my foot out of them, it's like you had to leave the room.
You could smell it. Oof, that's bad. That's really bad.
Well, we had to toss those.
Yeah. I could definitely use, especially because in the winter, because we have hardwood floors and throughout most of our apartment, I bet you the floor is going to be pretty cold.
Yes.
So I should probably get some slippers.
You should.
But my feet just sweat so much. Even just wearing socks. Like I have some thicker, softer socks that I wear sometimes when my feet are cold, and they just sweat after 5 minutes just wearing those socks.
Well, the nice thing about these slippers, since they have no back, they're so easy to slip on and off.
Right.
And then get a couple minutes of air time, and then you pop them back on. So,
and there's a little bit of breathe there too, because it's open. It's like when you're sleeping in bed and it's cold outside, but under the covers you're like too hot, so you like stick one leg out and you get that little bit of cold air that like spreads across your body. It's good stuff. All right, well, thank you everybody for listening. We'll end on that, really important slipper hot and cold topic.
PSA.
But be sure to check out SheaHatesEverything.com for written opinions on video games, movies, television, comics, and other shit that matters. Thank you, Kyle, for joining me, as always.
You got it.
And we will see you guys in a couple of weeks for some more E3 prep.
Oh, boy.
I believe I will have seen Deadpool 2 before our next episode, so we can talk about that. And then after that, we got Solo. So we got some movies coming out. I'm excited to talk about those. Go see Avengers, and then next week we can talk a little bit more about spoilers.
Only if Hawkeye dies.
All right, well, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.